Contents. Introduction. Chapter 1. Pronunciation. Chapter 2. Easy words. Chapter 3. Small words. Chapter 4. Numbers. Chapter 5. Animals. Chapter 6. Body parts. Chapter 7. Food. Chapter 8. Family. Chapter 9. Verbs present tense. Chapter 10. Simple phrases and conjunctions. Introduction. This book is for beginners, people who haven't learned Dutch at all, but are excited to get started. As you might have seen from my last name, and yes, that's my actual name, I am of Dutch origin. In fact, I grew up in the Netherlands. My native language is Dutch, but over the years, as I have lived in several English-speaking countries and interacted with many foreigners, I have mastered that language as well. I now speak both languages fluently to the point where most people can't even hear my Dutch accent anymore. In the past, I have worked for a translation office, which is English to Dutch, and I have become precise and exact at translating, correcting, reviewing, and proofing documents in both Dutch and English. Because of my experience in translation work and numerous editing jobs, and with my cultural background, I am confident to say that I will be one of the best Dutch language teachers you will find. I will show you how to learn and master the Dutch language in a heartbeat. Languages are elaborate. They include hundreds of thousands of words. Just check out the dictionary and expressions people just get used to when they grow up with a certain language. But memorizing a dictionary will, however useful, only get you so far. Forming sentences and understanding grammar, the logic and structure of a language is a whole study. One can only speak a language fluently by being completely embedded in it for years, but at least with these 3 books, I can teach you the most important basics and get you going so that you'll be more confident in speaking up and reading or writing Dutch. The ebook version of this book contains YouTube videos and a bonus link. One of the best ways to learn a language is by learning the most common verbs. Verbs like to be, to have, to see, to ask, to say, to go, to come, to get, etc. form the basis of any sentence. I will get you started on the present tense in this book, as well as a lot of other useful topics. Are you eager to learn? Then don't wait any longer and read on. Ik zie je zo. I will see you soon. Before we study anything else, you'll have to know how to pronounce the language. I remember a funny experience I had when I was working at an American call center. It was a disaster because when people spelled their names, the sounds of the alphabet didn't click in my mind quickly enough. So when a New Yorker with a heavy accent said A, my mind thought it was an E, because that's what it is in Dutch. And when she said an E, it took me a few seconds to realize it was not the Dutch E, but an I. If you don't do this, whatever you will say will be off and misunderstood. So, without further ado, let's start out with the basics. First, let me point out some pronunciation rules. Short vowels. Just remember that English has a lot of long vowels. Words like aw and jaw and well and bore and creek and almost everything else is pronounced as if they dragged the tone all the way to the other side of the world. Not in Dutch, however. In Dutch, a lot of vowels are short. Keep that in mind when you try to pronounce the words. If you know German, Spanish, Portuguese, or French, it's good to compare those a little. In those languages, a lot of vowels are short as well, just like in Dutch, and the way they pronounce the alphabet is closer to how the Dutch pronounce it. No the. First and foremost, the Dutch do not have a th sound like the English language does. Words like the or thing or faith and others are non-existent in the Dutch language. If you ever encounter a word with a th in it, simply pronounce the t and do not worry about the h after it. Often these words come from the ancient Greek language, which is why they are spelled with an h. Examples are theoloog, which is theologist, or the, which is t, or theorie, which is theory. The ch or ch. The g sound, sometimes written as a ch, which is also sometimes from Greek, like the word chaos or chaos, is pronounced as a back throat sound, similar to the Spanish jota, the J. It's kind of like gurgling. You may think this sounds terrible, but it can actually sound pretty, depending on where you go and what voice utters the sound. In the Netherlands and Belgium, the way it is usually that the further you go north, the louder and harder this letter is pronounced. In the southern Belgian parts where I lived, it was almost pronounced close to an H, like huh. Sometimes and sometimes it was pronounced softly. So here are some words to practice: chaos, chaos; groen, green; geven, to give; gek, crazy; kachel, heater. There are. The letter R can be pronounced as an English R, but usually only at the end of a word, which is what they often do in cities like Den Haag or The Hague or Zoetermeer. In other parts in the Netherlands, it is done occasionally, but often there is more preference for the French R. Pronounce it as with the back of your throat. Sometimes it can be so close to the Dutch sound that it's hard to hear the difference. Here are some examples. Rood, which means red. Ver, far. Here, gentleman. Dear, tar. A lot of sounds. No, not the as in you, but kind of like the as in urgent, or like the I letter in birth. Dutch has this sound so much that you better get used to it. The confusing letter E. The letter E can be pronounced in general in three different ways in Dutch. First, as in the first in letter or better, or as in bet or bed. Second, as in the U sound I just described, and I will indicate so by writing it as uh. Third, as a, like bay or hay or say or bait. This makes it a little complicated since some words have two or three different E's in it, but they are pronounced differently. The same counts for English anyway, so maybe it's fair, right? Here are some examples. Listen closely at the pronunciation. Veters, shoelaces. Gebrek, deficiency. Lekken, leaks. Gegeten, eaten. Verder, further or farther. Kever, beetle. Okay, another thing. Don't blow. There are three letters in Dutch that are the same, except for the fact that they don't blow the sounds. Those are the P, the K, and the T. For example, you can say the word parrot and blow the P and T as if there was an H or something that made you blow the sound. In Dutch, however, they keep them short and cut them off in their pronunciation. The same goes for words with the letter K or C pronounced as K. Try pronouncing these words with blowing those three letters without blowing those three letters. Baker, cup. Takken, branches. Ketting, chain. Kapot, broken. Boeken, books. Kaak, jaw. Kast, closet. Papegaai, parrot. Tien, tiene. Teen, toe. Kraan, faucet. The W is kind of like in between. The Dutch pronounce the W as a letter that is in between a V and an English W. When an English speaker pronounces the W, he or she shapes the mouth in a round shape and uses more of his or her front lips to pronounce the letter. The Dutch, however, almost make it sound like a V, but if you listen closely, it's not the same. Slack off. If you pronounce the letter Z and the letter V exactly like they are, you could get away with it easily and sound good at Dutch, but in a lot of areas in the Netherlands, and some in Belgium, for example, people turn the V into an F and the Z into an S. My name, for example, sounded more like Vincent instead of Vincent. Try pronouncing these words by turning the V into an F sound and the Z into an S sound. It will make it sound more Dutch, I promise. Zelden, seldom. Zaden, seeds. Vorig, previously. Vaak, often. Other things a lot of Dutch leave out, as opposed to the Germans, is the letter N. A lot of verbs or plural words end at en, but the Dutch don't want to pronounce the n. Often the e before the last letter has the sound, so that is common to get ended with. Sometimes they do pronounce it if the next word starts with a vowel, just to connect the flow of the words better. It's not incorrect to pronounce the n, just like in the previous examples, but it makes it sound more Dutch to leave it out sometimes. And by reading this information, you will know what they mean when they leave that letter out. Here are some examples. The word geven, to give, is often pronounced as geven. Lopen is lopen, means to walk. Taken could be said as take, which is tasks. Papieren could be pronounced as papieren, which is papers. Watch out that you only leave the n out, or can expect them to, when the last two letters are en. For example, you could not leave it out when you say doen, or gaan, or van. The letter D at the end of the word is a tricky one. As opposed to the English, the Dutch don't like to end with a D sound. In English, it's common to make sure you perfect your pronunciation by indicating that the word ends with a D in words like end, bend, hand, and fond. In Dutch, this better turns into a T. Someone with a heave Dutch accent may pronounce those words like ent, bent, or hand, or font. Practice these words and turn the D at the end of the word into a T. So heart is pronounced with a D, which means hard. Paard, it's also pronounced with a D, but it's said as a T. It means horse. Gerend means ran. Rond means round. Moord means murder. The alphabet. Okay, with all these tricks and techniques, you are now ready for the official alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Vowel combinations. Just like in English, certain combinations or vowels create different sounds, the Dutch have some set combinations of vowels. However, it might be hard for an English speaking person to get all of them exactly right, since some of them don't exist in English. The ow. Examples are kouwen, nauw, or authentiek. The ow, as in cow or now, whether the Dutch spelling is with the first AU or the second AU, depends on the word. There is no way to tell by the sound. Examples are oud, hout, rouwen, mouw, or vrouw. The eu is not exactly like the u, but if you want to get it right, listen to these examples. Heus, keuze, leuk, reus, peuk, deuken. Then there's the ui. It sounds a little bit like the ow, but it's still different. Listen to these examples. Huis, kuis, muis, ruit, buiten, fluiten. Then there's the ei. Similar to the I, but not the same. It's ei, not I. Examples are meisje, Eiffeltoren, eikels, zijde, dreigen. And then the I could be spelled with EI or with IJ, or sometimes they combine the IJ. And examples of the IJ combination are ijsje, vrij, krijgen, strijden, hij, zij, wij, blijven. Then there's the E, kind of like the E, but short and less exaggerated. So here's some examples. Fiets, kiezen, liep, riep, hier, mieren, brie. And then there's the oe, kind of like in shoe, but still a little different, as you can hear. Examples are koe, stoer, boer, hoed, meerkoet, hoes. Besides these standard vowel combinations, it makes a difference whether the Dutch write a word with one or two vowels. Make sure you get these right, because if you don't, you might be saying a different word. When I lived in the Netherlands, I knew an American visitor who tried to say, We gaan naar het bos. We are going to the forest. But instead, he said, We gaan naar het boos. We are going to the angry. Can you see how this makes a difference? Luckily, we knew what he meant, but it just shows that one or two vowels can make all the difference. Usually, one vowel means a short sound, and two of the same vowels in a row means a long sound. Study the following single or double vowel combinations in order to understand the difference in pronunciation. The ah, short, just an a, so kind of like in duck or buck or suck. Examples are duck, slak, tukken, stukker, kapot, hakken. Then there's the double A, which is long, so a little like ah or ra or ja, but with open mouth further and pronounce it like the Spanish a. Examples are taart, kaart, haat, staak, maak, maan. Then there's the U, which is usually the sound, or an u. Usually it's sounded pointed out earlier, like in fur or stir or herd. Examples are hut, durven, huppelen, ruk, stuk, put. Then there's the double U, not a W as the letter W, but two U's in a row. And it's kind of like U, but still a little different. So here are some examples. Muur, duur, stuur, huur, infuus, vuur. Here's a funny side note. I knew someone who mistakenly said she was going to pay the hoer, which means the whore. That month instead of what she meant to say was the huur, which is the rent or high, and it comes from hire. And we laughed pretty hard. Can you hear the difference? Hoer and huur. Huur means rent, hoer means whore. So it was pretty funny. Then there's the O, the short, like one O letter, which is pronounced like in the following examples: bos, stop, kop, rotte, lok, krop, dom. And then there's the double O. It's long, kind of like in boat or road or yoke or coat. Don't forget that it's not an English O or U sound like in boot or foot. This is why so many English people speaking countries pronounce my name as Newt or Nut, but it should be pronounced as note, like a music note. Examples are note, rood, groot, rook, and loop. By the way, when a double O is followed by an R, it usually sounds like the short O, like in before or chore. Examples are voor, or, oort, koort, woord. The E, it's pretty simple, like in bell or tell or lept or neck. And here are some examples when there's a single E. Nek, vet, het, ret, lek, mep. Then there's the double E. Sounds like A in English, like stay or clay or stake or mate or claim. And here's some Dutch examples. Mate, steak, reeks, bake, lake, vrees. By the way, when the double E combination is followed by an R, it sounds more like ear or ear. Yeah, examples are meer, teer, heer, leer, and keer. Then there's the I. This letter is pronounced as the sound fit or kit or wit. Examples in Dutch are hik, dik, fit, kin, vin, mis. Sometimes it's pronounced as an E, as in glee or steep or feature. This is never the case if it concerns a word with only one syllable. Examples are direct, miserabel, idioot, virus, crimineel. Just for spelling purposes, it's useful to know that the Dutch sometimes use what they call a trema, two dots on a vowel to indicate that the syllable changes in the middle of that word. German has a lot of it. Dutch only uses a little of it. It's just for pronunciation purposes and it means nothing else. You don't have to memorize this, but it's just good to know about it. Here's some examples. Egoïsme, coördinatie, ruïne, vacuüm, naïviteit, reële, geïnt, reunie, conciërge, kolonieën, poëzie. Chapter 2. Easy words. You can find words in many languages that sound, look, or feel like a word in English or some other language you already know. You can do this with any language, but with Dutch it can be particularly easy since Dutch, German, and English are considered to be Germanic languages. Therefore, sometimes all that changes is a vowel or two in the pronunciation, but the meaning and the consonants remain almost the same. Here's a list. It may seem like a lot of words to memorize, but it's actually really easy. I bet you'll have them down by going over them twice or sometimes even once. Here are some words that are almost or exactly the same. Bar means bar. Noodles, noodles. Legende, legend. Sok, sock. Neus, nose. Hoed, hat. Gras, grass. Plant, plant. Grond, ground. Paper, pepper. Envelop, envelope. Boot, boat. Peer, pear. Bus, bus. Staren, to stare. Pizza, pizza. Poker, poker. Ketchup, ketchup. Lasagna, lasagna. Vakantie, vacation or holiday. Letter, letter. Pen, pen. Lood, lead. Wit, white. Mat, mat. Tafel, table. Soep, soup. Deur, door. Wagen, wagon. Kussen, pillow, or think of cushion. Bed, bed. Televisie, television. TV, TV. Computer, computer. Duivel, devil. God, God. Engel, angel. Fork, fork. Auto, car. Think of automobile. Tele, telefoon, telephone. Trompet, trumpet. Horn, French horn. Viool, violin. Piano, piano. Drums, drums. Kat, cat. Poes, cat. Think of pussycat. Lamp, lamp. Licht, light. Sorry, sorry. Bank, bank, as in a bank company, not a couch. Huis, house. Hand, hand. Thuis, at home. Muis, mouse. Droom, dream. Rijst, rice. Spinazie, spinach. Bij, bee. Jaloers, jealous. Tofu, tofu. Hamer, hammer. Foto, photograph. T-shirt, t-shirt. Koala, koala bear. Aap, monkey. Think of ape. Muur, wall. Think of mural. Beer, bear, as in an animal bear. Bier, beer, the alcoholic drink. Meer, more. Banaan, banana. Vuur, fire. Stok, stick. Wiel, wheel. Draak, dragon. Goed, good or well. Beter, better. Best, best. In, uit, out or off. Kom, come. Ga, go. Heb, have. Datum, date. Dat, that, dit, this, steen, stone, oor, ear, zon, sun, zoon, son, as in somebody's son, dochter, daughter, kind, child or kid, maan, moon, navel, navel or belly button, CD, CD, DVD, DVD, souvenir, souvenir, historisch, historical, student, student, jou, you, jij, also you, but subject, we, toernooi, tournament, sport, sport, rol, roll, as in fulfilling a role or as in roll over, rond, round, ijs, ice cream or ice, water, water, wind, wind, appel, apple, straat, street, blok, block, eten, to eat or food, rauw, raw, rat, rat, vet, fat, dik, thick or fat, waar, there, where, daar, there, pan, pan, pot, pot, zwaard, sword, schild, shield, helm, helmet, depressie, depression. Latin or Germanic. One of the main differences between English and the other two Germanic languages, Dutch and German, is that English uses a lot more Latin-based words. Sometimes a word makes a lot of sense in Dutch because it's a combination of other words that have their root in the Germanic origins. But the English deviates from German or Dutch because it uses a word with Latin roots. Here are some interesting examples of words that make sense if you explain them. Aardappel, which means potato. This word consists of two words, aard and appel. The word aard comes from aarde, which means earth, and the word appel simply means apple. Since a potato is a starch that roots in the soil, the word earth apple makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? So that's why it's called aardappel or aardappel. Schildpad, which means turtle. The word schild means shield, and the word pot means toad. Therefore, the Dutch call a turtle a shield toad, which is schildpad. Aardbei, which is strawberry. The word aard, as we saw earlier, means earth, and the word bij is another word for bes, which means berry. So strawberries are actually called earth berries, since they don't grow in trees but on the low little plants. That's why it's called aardbei, and it means strawberry. Vierkant, which is square. The word vier simply means four, and the word kant means side. Pretty easy, right? A square is called a fourside in Dutch, since it has four sides. And so it's called vierkant. Driehoek is a triangle. This is one of those words for which the English decided to go the Latin way, but the Dutch kept it simple and called it what it is. The word drie means three, and the word hoek means corner. Thus, a triangle is called three-corner in Dutch, which is pronounced as driehoek. Bloemkool is cauliflower. The word bloem means flower. Think of blooming. And the word kool means cabbage. Therefore, a cauliflower is called flower cabbage in Dutch. And that's what it looks like, doesn't it? So it's called bloemkool. Frisdrank, which is soda or pop. Literally, the word frisdrank just means fresh drink. Makes sense, right? Those is what you ask for if you want a general idea of their selection of Coke, orange soda, lime, 7-Up, Sprite, or what they often have in the Netherlands, black currant, which they often call cassis. It's delicious. You should try it. So, A soda pop is called frisdrank. Sinaasappel, which is an orange, the fruit, not the color. The addition sinaas simply refers to the fact that this is a citrus fruit. The word appel means apple, so an orange is called a citrus apple, which is sinaasappel. Plakband, which is tape or scotch tape. The word plak comes from plakken, which means to paste, glue, or stick something. The word band is like a band, not the musical, but like a rubber band. So plakband is pasting rubber band, pretty much. Handdoek, which means towel. The word hand means hand and doek is a rag or cloth. Therefore, a towel is simply called a hand cloth in Dutch. It makes sense, since you often use it to dry your hands after washing them. So the word is handdoek. Verder gaan, which means continue. The word verder means further or farther, and the word gaan means to go. This is one of those cases where the English chose a Latin word, like continue, and the Dutch integrated a Germanic combination of two words. Another word for it could be doorgaan, which means the same. Door means through. So verder gaan or doorgaan means to continue. Vrachtwagen, which is a semi-truck. The word vracht literally means freight. It even sounds a little bit like freight, vracht. So a vrachtwagen is actually a freight wagon. That is pretty much what a semi-truck is, isn't it? Voorzichtig, careful or cautious is the meaning. Literally, voorzichtig means foresightful, or in other words, if you see ahead and you let your sight be guided before you, you are being cautious or careful. So it's voorzichtig. Losmaken, which means to detach or loosen up. The word los means loose, and the word maken means to make. So the Dutch talk about making your shoelaces loose instead of untying your shoelaces. Just a fun side note. Laces are veters, so you could say maak je veters los. Untie your shoes. As you've seen in some of these examples, the Dutch use words that are very different from the English meaning, but if you understand the logic behind those words, it will be easier to memorize them. Underneath are some examples, though, where the Dutch has integrated the Latin root too. Therefore, they are close to the English and easy to guess or remember. Here's a look at it. Concluderen, which is to conclude. Competitie, which is competition. Compact, compact. Combinatie, combination. Inclusief, including. Recessie, recession. Natie, nation. Extra, extra. Extravert, extrovert. Integreren, integrate. Informatie, information. Contract, contract. Chapter 3. Small words. Now that you have some knowledge and more understanding of the basic Dutch language, you'll be able to go on and memorize more easily what's being taught. First, you need to understand how a language makes sense, the logic of the thinking patterns, and only then the rest falls into place. In this chapter, we'll go over some of the most prevalent little words that you need to remember in order to create simple sentences. Whore. The word whore, and yes, it's pronounced as a whore or whore. Okay, means something like the Old English here. When people say this, don't be offended. They are not calling you a whore. They are simply emphasizing what they just said. For example, ik ga niet weg. I am not going away. Ik ga niet weg, hoor. I am really not going away. Don't worry. That's what it means. So they just add it as a habit to emphasize it. The or a. In Dutch, there are two words for the and only one word for a or un. The can be de or het. A or un can be un. The word de is pronounced as de. D-E is how it's spelled. Or a little like the English expression duh. The word un is often pronounced as un and it's spelled E-E-N. The word het is pronounced exactly how it looks. So how can you know whether you should use de or het? Well, I hate to tell you this, but most times you just need to memorize which one it is. It's like the Spanish el or la, or like the French le or la, or the German der, die, and das. So anytime you learn a noun in Dutch, always try to memorize if it's de or het. It can be completely annoying to find out that het de doek is, but het boek. And that is het gedoe, but de koe. So just because it rhymes doesn't mean it has the same gender. However, it will give you a few tricks that work most times just so that if you are guessing, you have a higher chance of being right. Words that end with je are usually diminished words. More about that in the last book in this series. For now, it's useful to know that they are always het. So, for example, het meisje, the girl. Het visje, the little fish, even though it's de vis. Het liedje, the little song. So when it gets diminished, it's always het. Plural is always de, even if the singular form is het. Just remember that. See the following examples for the singular form and the plural right next to it. Het boek means the book, but the plural is de boeken. Het ding, the thing. The plural is de dingen. Het vak, which means subject or compartment. The plural is de vakken. Het vlot means raft, but the plural is de vloten. Het gebod means commandment, but it's de geboden. There are some more rules to determine which it is, but those are a little more complicated. There are more words with de than with het. So if you really doubt and you have to make a guess, just go for de, since the chance is higher that you guessed it right. Now about this, that, these, or those. The words go along with the gender, de or het, and with the singular or plural form. Check them out over here. That is dot, pronounced as dot. It's spelled D-A-T. That is D, pronounced as spelled as D-I-E when it concerns de. This is dit if it concerns het. Pronounce it as dit and spell as D-I-T. This is deze if it concerns de, and it's spelled as D-E-Z-E. So, for example, if you want to say this book, you figure out first that it is het boek, and therefore it becomes dit boek. If you want to say, for example, that train, you look it up and find that it is de trein. So that means it should be die trein. Again, if you aren't sure and you have to guess at a certain moment, without time to look it up, just go for die and deze, since there's a higher chance that you will guess it right. The plural is easy. With the plural form, it doesn't matter if the word belonging to the noun is de or het. It remains the same, which makes it easier to memorize. Those is die. Pronounce it and spell it as D-I-E. These is deze, and it's spelled as D-E-Z-E. About colors. I will show you the most important and commonly used colors so you can point to stuff and say what color it is, or tell the guy at the store what color paint you want to buy. Rood, red. Blauw, blue. Wit, white. Zwart, black. Geel, yellow. Groen, green. Oranje, orange. Paars, purple. Roze, pink. Grijs, gray. Bruin, brown. Licht, light. Donker, dark. The Dutch combine the words often, so dark blue would be donkerblauw, and light red would be lichtrood. But the word is just one word instead of, like the English, two words. Greetings. Here are some common greetings in Dutch. Hoi, hi. Hallo, hello. Goedendag, good day. Dag, goodbye. Tot ziens, goodbye or until we meet again. Tot later, see you later. Hoe gaat het? How are you? Goed, good. About the words wel and niet. In English, as in other languages, there's a difference between yes and no. In Dutch, these expressions are ja, which is the same as in German, and nee, like the Old English word for no. However, the word that English is missing is the opposite of the word not. When trying to indicate the affirmative, English speakers often use the word do or put an extra strong emphasis on the verb in the sentence. For example, someone might say, "You did not take out the garbage," to which another may respond, "That's not true. I did take out the garbage." Obviously, the English never made up a word that opposes the word not, but the Dutch did. Yay! The Dutch word for not is niet, and the opposite is wel. Consider the following expressions, for example. Dat is niet mooi. That is not pretty. Het is wel mooi. It is pretty. Niet waar. Not true. Wel waar. It is true. Je mag niet met ons mee. You may not come with us. Ik mag wel met jullie mee. I may come with you. Ik heb het niet gedaan. I didn't do it. Je hebt het wel gedaan. You did do it. Then there's the word even. The word even, pronounced as even or effe or ekkes in some regions, is often used to express that something is not so much effort or won't take a long time. The Dutch say it to lighten up the situation, make a command sound less strict or mean, ease people's minds when they are worried, or show off how fast or easily they can do something. If you go to the Netherlands or Belgium, you will probably hear them say it every once in a while. Literally, it means for a small moment or just for 1 minute. A parent or teacher, for example, may beckon a child to come and say to the child, "Kom even hier," instead of the harsh, commanding method of saying, "Kom hier." By putting the word even in there, it makes it lighter. Someone who fixes your car can look at it and realize it will only take a minute, so you don't have to worry. You might express, "Dat doe ik even," which means something like, "I will fix it in a few minutes, no more." Possessive pronouns. A possessive pronoun is a word that indicates whether something belongs to you, me, him, or her, etc. Here are the possessive pronouns. Mijn, my, jou, your, zijn, his, haar, her, ons, or onze, our, jullie, your, hun, their. However, in Dutch they don't say it is his or it is mine. Rather, they say it is of him or it is of me. Below, I will show you how to say that. The word of is van. So, a Dutch person who says it is mine says het is van mij. It is of me. Het is van jou. It is yours. Or it is of you. Het is van hem of van haar. Het is van ons. It is ours. Or it is of us. Het is van jullie. Het is van hen. So it is theirs. Chapter 4. Numbers. The Dutch numbers are pretty easy, since they are similar to the English, but once you get into the tens, like 31 or 56 or something, I have to admit that the English makes a lot more sense than Dutch or German. I will explain this later. First, take a look at these. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10, 10, 11, 11, 12, 12, 13, 13, 14, 14, 15, 15, 16, 16. The others are just 17, 17, 18, which is 18, and then 19. That makes a lot of sense. Then 20, which is 20. 30, 30, 30, 40, 40, 50, 50, 60, 60, 70, 70, 80, which adds an extra T in the beginning, 80, 80, 90, 90, 100, so not 100, it's just 100, it's just 100, 1000, 1000, miljoen, million, miljard is billion, so it's not billion, it's miljard. Okay, so now that you know the basics, there's one more thing you need to know, and it's one of the most annoying things ever. I even think so, even though it is my proud native language. The thing is, they don't say 35, but 5 and 30. They don't say 88, but 8 and 80. The Germans do it too. This only counts for tens, not for hundreds or thousands. So look at the following examples and listen to them to understand it better. So 75 is literally 5 and 70. So they would say 5 en 70. 5 and 70, but it's actually 75. 24 would be pronounced as 4 and 20. So the Dutch would say 4 en 20. So 4 and 20, but it means 24. 144. So they would say 144. Literally 100, 4 and 40, which is really confusing, but it means 144. Then a big one. 2567. They would say 2000, so 2000, 500, 500, but then 67 is 7 and 60, so it's 67. 67. So 2567 would be 2567. So literally 2567, which is actually 67. Pretty tricky, huh? Well, just remember to reverse the tense and you'll be okay. After a while, it becomes fairly easy. Just say 3 and 20 instead of 23, etc. Then there is the issue of ETH. Just like in English, the first numbers are the exceptions, but after that, it's all the same add-on. At first, it's mostly the de, and after 19, it becomes mostly st. So the 20th and the 30th, that's what we're talking about here. The first is the eerste. Second, tweede. Third, derde. So not driede. This is an exception. Fourth, vierde. Fifth, vijfde. Sixth, zesde. Seventh, zevende. Eighth, achtste. So that's an exception. It's not achtde. It's achtste. Ninth is negende. 10th is tiende. The rest of them, like 11th, 12th, etc., have the add-on de, so de. So 11 or elf becomes elfde. The number 15th becomes 15 plus de, so it becomes 15de, etc. When it hits 20, it becomes ste, S-T-E. So 20 becomes 20ste. 30, which means 30, becomes 30ste, which means 30th. 40, 40ste, etc. Here's some more examples. So 21st is the 1 and 20th. So it becomes 1 en 20ste, which means 21st. 54th is 4 en 50ste. So 4 and 50th, but it means 54th. 100th means is honderdste. Some other words that could be used in combination with numbers are keer, which means time, like in the 100th time. Dit is de 100ste keer. This is the 100th time. Procent, which means percent. Kilo, which is kilo or kilogram. Euro, euro, because that's the currency they use. Graden Celsius, degrees in Celsius. Kilometer, which is kilometer. De helft, half. Een kwart is a quarter of. So not the coin, but the measurement. Time. Telling time in Dutch can be tricky. In Belgium, it's more common to use the simple version that a lot of Americans use, like saying that is 12:30. A Belgian would consider it normal for you to say, het is 12:30. It is 12:30. But for people from the Netherlands, even though they might understand it, it's not common to say it this way. Beneath are the times laid out for you, so you know what they are talking about when they say something like, it is 10 after half 3. It's a bit more complicated. Hours. 12 uur is 12 o'clock, noon or midnight. 1 uur is 1 o'clock. 2 uur is 2 o'clock. 3 uur, 3 o'clock. 4 uur, 4 o'clock, etc. Then there's the half hours. 12:30 is half 1. A bit confusing because literally it means half 1. So it's half before 1. So 12:30 would be pronounced as half 1, half 1. 1:30 p.m. is half 2, literally meaning half 2. 2:30 is half 3, etc. And don't forget that Dutch use the military time, so they don't have p.m. or a.m. So it's always, 2:30 p.m. would be written as 14:30. Quarterly hours. 12:15 would be kwart over 12. So quarter over or after 12. So that's how they say it. But then 12:45 would be kwart voor 1. So quarter to or before 1. So kwart over 12 is 12:15 and kwart voor 1 is 12:45, etc. If someone wants to know whether they mean AM or PM, they simply add in de ochtend, like in the morning, or in de avond, which means in the evening. The word for afternoon is middag, which literally stands for midday. The same principle of before and after applies to minutes, which are normally rounded up to 5 minutes to make it convenient. Look to the following examples. 2:40 is 10 over half 3, which is literally 10 after half 2, which is 2:40. 1:55 is 5 voor 2, so 5 minutes before or until 2. So 1:55 is 5 voor 2. 5:10 is 10 over 5, so 10 after 5. 6:25 is 5 voor half 7. So it's 5 minutes before half 7. So it's 6:25. It's a bit more complicated. 8:20 is 10 voor half 9. So 10 before half 9, which is 8:20. And 10:35 is 5 over half 11. So 5 after half 11, which is 10:35. Some common expressions are hoe laat is het? What time is it? Literally, they ask you, how late is it? So they don't say the word time. They say, how late is it? When they try to say, what time is it? Hoe laat is het? Het is 8 uur. It is 8 o'clock. Heb je tijd? Do you have time? Horloge. Watch. So like a watch that you're wearing. Klok. Clock. Vroeg. Early. Te laat. Too late. Op tijd. On time. Wanneer? When. Een kwartier, which means a quarter of an hour or 15 minutes. Getal or nummer means number. Minuut means minute. Seconde means second. Datum means date. Maand means month. Jaar means year. Vandaag means today. Morgen means tomorrow. Overmorgen means the day after tomorrow. Gisteren means yesterday. Eergisteren means the day before yesterday. Een half uur, a half hour. Komma, comma, punt, or dot, or period. Here's a little side note. The Dutch, like many other European nations, reverse the commas and the periods. So the number 12,000 in Dutch would be written with a dot or a period, not a comma. And if you talk about $5.99, a Dutch person would write it as 5, comma 99. Try not to mess up those because then you'll confuse them. Days of the week. Maandag, Monday. Dinsdag, Tuesday. Woensdag, Wednesday. Donderdag, Thursday. Vrijdag, Friday. Zaterdag, Saturday. Zondag, Sunday. Unlike in English, the Dutch days of the week aren't written with a capital letter, unless they are the first word of the sentence, of course. Months of the year. The same is true for months of the year. Unless they are the first word of the sentence, do not write them with a capital letter. Januari, January. Februari, February. Maart, March. April, April. Mei, May. Juni, June. Juli, July. Always pronounce the L very well since juni and juli are so close. Augustus, August. September, September. Oktober, October. November, November. December, December. The reverse principle I referred to earlier just makes it more confusing, and it's also true for dates. So the date of 4/12/2015, April 12th, 2015, would be written with dashes and with the date first, and then the month, like this, 12-4-2015. A Dutch person would say 12 april, 12 April 2015, 2015. Other examples are 15 januari, 15th of January, 20 december, 20th of December, 13 juni, 13th of June, which is actually June 13th. Chapter 5, Animals. We did a lot of grammar, some basic knowledge, and some boring stuff. I think it is interesting to study the logic of a new language and try to solve the puzzle of how they put their words together and make sense in their own way. But let's do something fun for a little while, just to give you a break, and go over some animals. Hond, dog. Kat, cat. Vogel, bird. Slang, snake. Spin, spider. Vlieg, fly. Hamster, hamster. Konijn, rabbit. Vis, fish. Eend, duck. Koe, cow. Paard, horse. Varken, pig. Kikker, frog. Zeehond, seal, which is literally sea dog, because zee is sea and hond is dog. Zeehond. Vos, fox. Kip, chicken. Hert, deer. Geit, goat. Schaap, sheep. Mier, ant. Ezel, donkey. Hagedis, lizard. Cavia, guinea pig. wolf, wolf, leeuw, lion, olifant, elephant, giraffe, giraffe, zebra, zebra, nijlpaard, hippo or hippopotamus, which is literally Nile horse. Nel paard. Nel is Nile and paard is horse. So nijlpaard is a hippo. Meeuw, seagull. Duif, dove or pigeon. Tijger, tiger. Aap, monkey. Beer, bear. Eekhoorn, squirrel. Dolfijn, dolphin. Wasbeer, raccoon. And literally in Dutch they say wash bear. It's a raccoon. It's a little bear that washes himself. So wasbeer. Haai, shark. Chapter 6, Body Parts. When you go to the doctor, compliment someone in his or her looks, say you get hurt, or any other situation that has to do with your body parts, it's handy to know what they are called. So here's an overview, and I will just start at the beginning. Haar, hair. Hoofd, head. Brein or hersenen, brain or brains. Schedel, skull. Wenkbrauw, eyebrow. Voorhoofd, forehead. Huid, skin. Oog, eye. Iris, iris. Pupil, pupil. Wimper, eyelash. Neus, nose. Wang, cheek. Oor, ear. Kaak, jaw. Mond, mouth. Lippen, lips. Kin, chin. Tong, tongue. Tanden, teeth. Nek, neck. Keel, throat. Schouder, shoulder. Elleboog, elbow. Buik, belly or tummy. Maag, stomach. Navel, belly button or navel. Rug, back. Darmen, intestines. Blaas, bladder. Borsten, breasts. Tepel, nipple. Borstkas, chest. Longen, lungs. Hart, heart. Ribben, ribs. Arm, arm. Hand, hand. Pols, wrist. Vingers, fingers. Nagel, nail. Knokkels, knuckles. Make sure you pronounce the K. Knokkels. Duim, thumb. Wijsvinger, pointing finger. Middelvinger, middle finger. Ringvinger, ring finger. Pink, pinky. Heup, hip. Billen, butt. Penis, penis. Vagina, vagina. Knie, knee. Make sure you pronounce the K. Been, leg. Kuit, calf. Heel or hak, heel. Enkel, ankle. Voet, foot. Tenen, toes. Chapter 7, Food. Just to help you order something in a restaurant or figure out what everything on the menu means, here are some key words that are connected to food and eating. You've already seen the first 10. Aardappel, potato. Bloemkool, cauliflower. Sinaasappel, orange. Rijst, rice. Appel, apple. Aardbei, strawberry, banaan, banana, water, water, fish, fish, soup, soup. Now let's teach you some new ones. Here we go. Drinks. Limonade, which is lemonade, sugary drink or fruit. It doesn't necessarily have to have lemon. Sometimes it's like Kool-Aid or syrup with water. Koffie, coffee. Thee, tea. Wijn, wine. Meat and fish. Hamburger, hamburger. Ham, ham. Gehakt, minced meat. Kip, chicken. Vlees, which is meat, but you can think of flesh. Rundvlees, beef. Varkensvlees, pork. Gehaktbal, meatball. Worst, sausage. Biefstuk, steak. Garnaal, shrimp. Zalm, salmon. Fruits and vegetables. Broccoli, broccoli. Bonen, beans. Fruit, fruit. Groente, vegetables. Erwten, peas. Mais, corn. Boerenkool, kale. Wortels, carrots. Sla, lettuce. Salade, salad. Tomaat, tomato. Bosbes, blueberry, literally forest berry. Braam, blackberry. Framboos, raspberry. Ananas, pineapple. Watermeloen, watermelon. Sperziebonen, green beans. Abrikoos, apricot. Nectarine, nectarine. Perzik, peach. Spices and seasonings. Nootmuskaat, nutmeg. Zout, salt. Peper, pepper. Kaneel, cinnamon. Curry, curry. Oregano, oregano. Knoflook, garlic. Thyme, thyme. Other. Snack, snack, same word. Ontbijt, breakfast. Lunch, lunch. Spaghetti, spaghetti. Frietjes, fries or French fries or chips if you're in Great Britain. Avondeten, dinner. Noten, nuts. Chips, which means chips or crisps. Snoep, candy or sweets. Chocola or chocolade is chocolate. It doesn't matter whether you say chocola or chocolade, by the way. Brood, bread. Boter, butter. Jam, jam or jelly. Kaas, cheese. Pinda, peanut. Pindakaas, peanut butter. Melk, milk. Stroop, syrup. Chocopasta, which is chocolate spread for bread like Nutella. Hagelslag, which is chocolate sprinkles. Hagelslag. It's usually used for bread. It's very common in the Netherlands and Belgium. Scherp, which means sharp or spicy. Heet, hot. Koud, cold. Chapter 8, Family. Family relationships matter whether it concerns immediate family or extended family. In Dutch, they are two different words. Extended family, like aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins, etc., are called familie. But if a father or mother talks about his or her family, which means partner and children, they talk about gezin. But this usually doesn't apply when a child is talking about the family he or she is in. So, for example, you can say that That is a happy family, referring to mother, father, and children. Then you would say, dat is een gelukkig gezin. That is a happy family, because it's just a mother, father, and children. A child could say, I come from a big family. That child would say, ik kom uit een groot gezin. I come from a big family. Since he or she is referring to the family he or she grew up in. But if a child says something like, my immediate family is loud, he or she would say, mijn familie is luidruchtig. Since he or she is referring to the family he or she belongs to, not the one he or she presides over, as in the parents who are in charge in that family. I know it's a little complicated, but just guess if you're not sure. They know what you mean. Most times, gezin refers to immediate family and familie to extended family. Let's go over some of the family members now so you can get the basics. Broer, brother. Zus, sister. Vader, father. Moeder, mother. Zoon, son. Dochter, daughter. Schoonbroer, brother-in-law. Schoonzus, sister-in-law. Schoonvader, father-in-law. Schoonmoeder, mother-in-law. Schoonzoon, son-in-law. Schoondochter, daughter-in-law. Neef, cousin, which is a male cousin. Nicht is a female cousin. Neefje is nephew. Nichtje, niece. Vrouw is wife or woman. Don't say wijf like wife in English because it's a degrading word for woman. So it's vrouw, not wife. Man is husband or man. Geadopteerd is adopted. Aangetrouwd, married into. Gescheiden, divorced. Ik woon samen met. I live together with. Vriend, boyfriend or a male friend. Vriendin, girlfriend or a female friend. Verloofde, fiancé. De oppas, de babysitter. Chapter 9. Verbs in the present tense. Now that we've gone over some fun themes, I will show you one of the best ways to master a language. Learning verbs. Every sentence in any language includes a verb, so memorizing the most important ones is half the work. When it comes to verbs, there are those that follow the regular pattern. In English, those are the ones that simply add an S to the he, she, or it conjugation and ed or a d to the past tense or past principle. But some don't follow that pattern, like I fly, but in the past tense it's I flew. The same is true in Dutch. Some verbs follow the common pattern and have the same letters added to them when it changes into the past tense or past participle. But others, usually the ones that get used the most, are irregular verbs. Let's take a look at regular verbs with normal and consistent conjugations that can be used as a standard for others. For now, we are just going to focus on the present tense. The past tense will come in the other two books about speaking Dutch. First, please understand what an infinitive is, which is the root of the verb without any conjugation. In English, this is to something something, like to duck, or to hit, or to be, or to have. In Dutch, this is always one word that ends at an N, or more commonly at EN, like bukken, or slaan, or zijn, or hebben, which, pronounced without the N at the end because they slack it off. Unlike German, when they say haben. Another thing, when it comes to you, singular, so you as a person, there are two forms. It really doesn't matter which one you use a lot of times. There is je or jij. The only thing you need to remember is that when there's a special emphasis on that word, you have to use jij. For example, if you say you go away, it could be translated as je gaat weg or as jij gaat weg. But if the sentence is not I, but you are going away, the emphasis is placed on the word you because of the contrast. Therefore, it should be translated as niet ik, maar jij gaat weg. The same counts for the word we. You could use we or wij. In any case, except for when the emphasis is placed on that word as opposed to another. Then it has to be wij. And the same counts for ze and zij, which means either she or they. Regular verbs. In the present tense, the you and he, she person usually get a T at the end, and the plural forms, whether it's the or you, plural, or they, usually gets en added at the end. The double consonants are there to ensure that the sound stays short, like in the following example where an extra k gets added, so the reader knows not to say a long ah and keep the a short. By the way, the word jullie is pronounced as jullie. Pakken means to get or to take. Ik pak. Jij pakt. Hij, zij pakt. Wij pakken. Jullie pakken. Zij pakken. The opposite is true too. When the vowel has to stay long, one of them gets deleted in the plural conjugations, since the Dutch considered two vowels unnecessary in a two-syllable word. So, like lopen, to walk. Ik loop, jij loopt, hij of zij loopt, wij lopen, jullie lopen, zij lopen. Maken, to make. Ik maak, jij maakt, hij zij maakt, wij maken, jullie maken, zij maken. If there's already a T at the end of the verb, the Dutch consider it a little over the top to add an extra T, so they just leave it out, like in the word zetten, which means to put or to place. Ik zet, jij zet, hij zij zet, just with one T. Wij zetten, jullie zetten, zij zetten. When a verb ends with a D, the Dutch do add a T, but they just don't say it. It would be a little weird to pronounce a word with the T, as you would struggle to pronounce it and sound like a crazy person. Remember what you learned earlier, that the Dutch pronounced the D at the end of the word like a T anyway. And also remember that the B at the end of a word is pronounced as a P. So for example, the word worden is to become. Ik word, jij wordt with dt, hij zij wordt with a dt, wij worden, jullie worden, zij worden. If a word doesn't have an E before the last letter N, the E doesn't get added to the plural forms either. Here are some common examples. The word doen, to do. Ik doe, jij doet, hij zij doet, wij doen, jullie doen, zij doen. Or the word zien, which is to see. Ik zie, jij ziet, hij zij ziet, wij zien, jullie zien, zij zien. Here are some verbs to memorize that have irregular conjugations in the present tense. I will give you the first person with the unconjugated verb, just to clarify how the singular forms come to existence. Horen, ik hoor, to hear. Voelen, ik voel, to feel. Kijken, ik kijk, to look. Rennen, ik ren, to run. Zitten, ik zit, to sit. Krijgen, ik krijg, to get. Kopen, ik koop, to buy. Verkopen, ik verkoop, to sell. Eten, ik eet, to eat. Drinken, ik drink, to drink. Rijden, ik rijd, to ride or to drive. Fietsen, ik fiets, to ride a bicycle. Moeten, ik moet, to must or to have, to. Vinden, ik vind, to find or to have an expression of an opinion. Then there's irregular verbs. Here are some irregular verbs that would come in handy if you memorized them, since they are so common in everyday language. The first one is komen, to come. Ik kom, jij komt, hij zij komt, wij komen, jullie komen, zij komen. The next one is gaan, to go. Ik ga, jij gaat, hij zij gaat, wij gaan, jullie gaan, zij gaan. Next one is to have, or in Dutch, which is hebben. Ik heb, jij hebt, hij zij heeft, wij hebben, jullie hebben. Next one is zijn. To be. Zijn means to be. Ik ben, jij bent, hij zij is, wij zijn, jullie zijn, zij zijn. The next one is geven, which means to give. Ik geef, jij geeft, hij zij geeft, wij geven, jullie geven, zij geven. The next one is mogen, which means to may or be allowed to. Ik mag, jij mag, hij or zij mag, wij mogen, jullie mogen, zij mogen. Then there's the future tense. The future tense in Dutch is really easy. The future tense is, just like in English and in German, not a conjugation. I always get confused when they do that in Romantic languages like Spanish or French. So this makes it simpler. The Dutch word for will or shall is zullen. Here are the present tense conjugations of zullen. Ik zal, which means I will. Je or jij zult. You will. Hij or zij zal. He or she will. We or wij zullen. We will. Ze or zij zullen. They will. We or wij zullen. We will. Simply add the infinitive of the Dutch verb to that one and you have a sentence in the future tense. For example, ik zal gaan means I will go. And zij zullen gaan means they will go. Chapter 10. Simple phrases and conjunctions. In this chapter, I will get you started with some easy phrases you can memorize to use in everyday language and conversations. First, let me tell you all the different ways you can ask for confirmation after a sentence. In English, this is often done depending on where you live by saying doesn't it, or isn't it, or right, or huh, or in Canada, a. In Dutch, there are several ways to do this. The most common one first. Hè, toch, of niet, of wel, niet waar, vind je niet. Here are some more small talk sentences. Kijk daar eens. Hey, look over there. Hoe oud ben je? How old are you? Ik ben 20 jaar. I am 20 years old. Lekker weer, hè? The weather is lovely, isn't it? Waar ga je naartoe? Where are you going? Ik ga naar huis. I am going home. Ik heb er genoeg van. I've had enough of this. Dank je wel. Thank you. Bedankt also means thank you. Ik heb geld nodig. I need money. Graag gedaan. You're welcome. Geen dank. Don't mention it. Dat staat je leuk. That looks good on you. Wat gaaf zeg. That is so cool. Ik heb geen zin meer. I don't feel like it anymore. Ik heb honger. I am hungry, which is literally, I have hunger. That's what they say. Ik heb honger. Ik heb dorst. I am thirsty. Again, literally, they say, I have thirst. Hou op. Stop it. Wees eens stil. Be quiet. Wat zeg je? What did you say? Ik begrijp het niet. I don't understand. Ik weet het niet. I don't know. Dat is gek. That is so weird or crazy. Mooi, toch? Beautiful, isn't it? Zie ik je morgen? Will I see you tomorrow? Tot straks. See you later. Ik voetbal graag. I love to play soccer or football. Ik heb een hekel aan hockey. I hate hockey. Ik blijf hier. I am staying here. Nu or now means now. Nog een keer. Again, which literally means another time. Nog een keer. Another time. Again. Wat is dat? What is that? Wat heb je daar? What have you got there? Thank you again for listening to Speak Dutch by Vincent Note, narrated by Vincent Note. Have a good day, and we'll see you in the next book. Contents. Introduction. Chapter 1. Questions. Chapter 2. Conjunctives and prepositions. Chapter 3. Verbs, past tense. Chapter 4. Past participle. Chapter 5. Verbs, exceptions. Chapter 6. Adjectives and opposites. Chapter 7. Weather. Chapter 8. Travel. Chapter 9. Relationships and romance. Chapter 10. Diminutives. Introduction. This book is for those who speak some Dutch but want to learn a bit more. It goes deeper into the grammar and some more complicated phrases of the language. For those who haven't bought the first book yet, let me tell you something about myself. As you might have seen from my last name, I am of Dutch origin. In fact, I grew up in the Netherlands. My native language is Dutch. In the past, I have worked for a translation office, English to Dutch, and have become an expert at translating, correcting, reviewing, and proving documents in both Dutch and English. Because of my experience in translation work and numerous editing jobs, and with my cultural background, I am confident to say that I will be one of the best language teachers in Dutch you'll find. I will show you how to learn and master the Dutch language. Languages don't have to be hard. It's all about understanding the structure of a language, not just memorizing thousands of words. Memorizing a dictionary will, however useful, only get you so far. Forming sentences and understanding grammar, the logic and structure of a language is a whole study. One can only speak a language fluently by being completely embedded in it for years, but at least with these 3 books I can teach you the most important basics and get you going so that you'll be more confident in speaking up and reading or writing Dutch. Like I mentioned in the first book, one of the best ways to learn a language is by understanding verbs. Other important words are nouns and adverbs. In this book I will show you how the past tense of the Dutch verbs, as well as how to ask simple questions and use diminutives, can be easy enough to learn. You'll learn more about topics like romance, travel, and weather, common topics to talk about in everyday life. So if you are excited to learn more Dutch, lees dan snel verder. Keep reading fast. Chapter 1. Questions. In this chapter, you are going to learn how to form a question. It is pretty simple, but there are some rules and exceptions. A few hundred years ago, people who spoke English used the same or a similar system to transform a statement into a question as many other languages. They simply reversed the subject and the verb. But nowadays, English has become a little different by adding the word do in there, which is also true for changing a positive sentence into a negative one. See the following example. Statement: You have cold feet. It used to be, have you cold feet? But now it is, do you have cold feet? However, Dutch, German, and many other languages have not put this odd phenomenon into their language. When they ask a question, they simply reverse the subject and the verb as of old. So in Dutch, it would be statement: Je hebt koude voeten. You have cold feet. Question: Heb je koude voeten? If you are watching carefully, the T disappeared in the question. This is because anytime the verb appears before the word je, meaning you, the T disappears. Another example of that is the following. Je pakt het aan. Pak je het aan? This is only the case with the word je, or the equivalent jij. Here are other words you should study for a little while in order to ask questions in Dutch. Wanneer means when. Waar means where. Wie means who. Wat means what. Remember to don't blow the T. Welke means which. Waarom means why. Hoe means how. With these words memorized, you are armed with a firm basis of asking Dutch questions. Simply combine them with the words you already know, reverse the verb and the subject, and ta-da, you have a Dutch question. Here are some common ones just to clear it up and give you some examples. Waar is de wc? Where are the restrooms? By the way, WC, WC, stands for water closed, but the word toilet, pronounced as toilet, is also correct. So you could ask, waar is het toilet? Hoe gaat het? How are you? Or literally, how goes it? So yeah, they say how goes it for how are you. Hoe gaat het? Waarom doe je dat? Why are you doing that? Welke wil je? Which one do you want? Wie gaat er mee? Who is coming? Waar ga je naartoe? Where are you going? Wat is dit? What is this? Hoe doe je dat? How do you do that? Wie ben je? Who are you? Waar doet het pijn? Where does it hurt? Literally, it is where does it pain? Hoe laat vertrekt de trein? What time does the train leave? Literally, how late leaves the train? Hoe laat vertrekt de trein? Waarom zeg je niks? Why aren't you saying anything? Or literally, why say you nothing? Waarom zeg je niks? Wat zal ik doen? What shall I do? Wanneer verhuis je? When are you moving? Wanneer is het voorbij? When is it over? Hoe laat kom je terug? What time are you coming back? Of course, that's not all there is, so let me give you a few common combinations so you can ask more advanced questions when you really need to know something. Wat voor something something? What kind of something something? Hoe vaak? How often or how many times? Hoeveel? How much or how many? And it's one word in this case, so it's an exception. Waar vandaan, from where. Waarheen, where to. The words waar vandaan and waarheen get split up so that the last part, vandaan or heen, gets pushed all the way to the back of the sentence. Usually, the words waar vandaan and waarheen are consecutively followed by conjugation of komen, to come, or gaan, to go. That makes sense. So, here are some examples. Hoeveel kost het? How much does it cost? Hoeveel wil je er? How many do you want? Hoeveel maanden blijf je? How many months are you staying? Hoe vaak ga je winkelen? How often do you go shopping? Hoeveel keer kun je opdrukken? How many push-ups can you do? Waar kom je vandaan? Where are you from? Waar gaat hij heen? Where is he going? Chapter 2. Conjunctives and Prepositions. A conjunctive puts two sentences together and a preposition puts two words or parts of a sentence together. Here are some of the most important words to remember to form more complicated sentences. Conjunctives. En, spelled en, means and. Of means or. Maar means but, spelled maar, maar. Dus, so. Als, if or when. Omdat, because. Want, want, want. Because. Zodat, so that. Nadat, after. Voordat, before. Since, since. Toen, then or when. Totdat, until. Behalve, except for. Tenzij, unless. Alsof, as if. Hoewel, although. Examples. Hij zei iets voordat hij aankwam. He said something before he arrived. Ik ben blij, want ik heb veel geld. I am happy because I have a lot of money. Als het goed is, ga ik ermee akkoord. If it is good, I will agree. Hij is thuis en hij is boos. He is home and he is angry. Het klinkt leuk, maar ik weet het niet. It sounds like fun, but I don't know. Wil je deze of die hebben? Do you want to have this one or that one? Ik werk hard, zodat ik genoeg heb. I work hard, so that I will have enough. Ik wacht totdat je er bent. I will wait until you are there. As you may have noticed, in some of these sentences, the verb gets switched around or pushed towards the back of the sentence. This is called inversion, which I will discuss in the third book. Prepositions. Aan, on. Op, on or at. Uit, out or off. Met, with. In, it's the same word. Van, of or from. Volgens, according to. For or in front of. Via or via. Zonder, without. Bij or at or close by. Binnen, inside. Buiten, outside. Door, through or by. Over, tegenover, across from. Tussen, in between. tegen, against, onder, under, achter, behind, boven, above, naast, next to or adjacent to, naar, to, as in the direction of. These are not prepositions, but still good to know. Links is left. It's spelled Links, but you don't pronounce the K. Rechts, which means right. Kant, so this means side. So you could say linkerkant, left side, or rechterkant, right side. So if we have a table, and we'd say above the table, we'd say boven de tafel. Op tafel, on the table. Achter de tafel, behind the table. Naast de tafel, next to the table. Onder de tafel, under the table. Or voor de tafel, in front of the table. When it comes to the table in particular, there's a standard expression that says op tafel. In that exception, the word de is often left out. So you don't say op de tafel, but op tafel. You might have seen the name van before, or you may know someone who has this word in his last name. It comes from the time that people often made up last names referring to the city they were born in. A last name like Van Bergen simply means that their ancestors came from the Dutch town Bergen. Of course, not every Dutch last name has that word, but if you open up the phone book in any town in the Netherlands or Belgium, you would see a lot of last names that start with van. Here are some examples of sentences in which the above mentioned prepositions exist. Trek je kleren aan. Put your clothes on. Trekken literally means to pull, so literally pull your clothes on. Trek je kleren aan. Next. Doe het licht uit, which is do the light off, but in English, of course, we say turn the light off. So doe het licht uit. Friet met mayonaise. Fries with mayonnaise, which is more common than with ketchup in the Netherlands, Belgium. And I encourage you to try it if you ever visit. Ik ga zonder hem weg. I am going away or leaving without him. Ik heb een pet op mijn hoofd. I have a hat on my head. Ligt je broek op de bank? Are your pants on the sofa or on the couch? Ligt je broek op de bank? Ik ga morgen naar buiten. Tomorrow I will go outside. Volgens mij is dat verkeerd. I think that is wrong. Literally, they say, according to me, is that wrong? The Dutch use volgens mij, or according to me, a lot when they are saying, I think that. So they would say, I think that is beautiful. Volgens mij is dat mooi. Ze gaat naar de dokter. She is going to the doctor. Ik sta voor de deur. I'm standing at the door or in front of the door. Ik loop door de deur. I am walking through the door. Dat ding is van mij. That thing is mine. Ik heb een cadeau voor je. I have a gift or a present for you. Dat is aardig van je. That is nice of you. Ik rijd via Amsterdam. I am driving via Amsterdam. Hij staat achter me, of niet? He is standing right behind me, isn't he? We rijden nu door de tunnel. We are now driving through the tunnel. Chapter 3. Verbs past tense. In English, most verbs in the past tense end with a D or with ed, but in Dutch it's a bit more complicated, unfortunately, and not by much, but still. In this chapter, I will show you how to conjugate regular verbs. Verbs with T in the past tense. There are two kinds of regular verbs in the past tense. There are lots of exceptions, but those are irregular, and we'll go into those later. I will give you an example so you can understand the model which decent percentage of the Dutch verbs in the past tense follow. First, let's do one with the short vowel sound in the first syllable. Pakken, to take or to get. Ik pakte, I took. Jij pakte, you took. Hij, zij pakte, he, she took. Wij pakten, we took. But of course you can slack off the N, but you still have to write it. Jullie pakten, you took, plural. Zij pakte, they took. Pretty simple, right? Just add te in the singular form or ten in the plural form, and you're done. Actually, since the Dutch often slack off the N at the end, the plural form often sounds like the singular form anyway, so if you're not sure, just don't pronounce the N at the end, and you're good. Here's an example of the verbs with long vowels in the first syllable. It's really easy if you think about the logic behind the short and long sounds and the way they are spelled. Notice that the letter V often turns into an F and the letter Z often turns into an S. Raken, to touch. You could also say aanraken, but right now we're doing raken. Ik raakte, I touched. Jij raakte, you touched. Hij, zij raakte, he, she touched. Wij raakten, we touched. It's just with an N, but you don't have to say the N. Jullie raakten, you touched, plural. Zij raakten, they touched. Verbs that follow this pattern are, for instance, schoppen, schopte, ik schopte, to kick. Fietsen, ik fietste, to ride a bicycle. Zetten, zette, ik zette, to put or to place. Plaatsen, ik plaatste, to place. Werken, ik werkte, to work. Maken, ik maakte, to make. Beven, ik beefde, to shake or shiver. Kleven, ik kleefde, to cleave or to stick. Plakken, ik plakte, to paste or glue. Verbs with a D in the past tense is the next one. The verbs with D in the past tense follow the same logic. It's not hard to figure them out. The only flaw is that, unfortunately, it's not always simple to find out whether a verb follows the T or the D pattern. There are certain consonants that are often followed by a D in the past tense and certain ones that are often followed by a T in the past tense, but going over all the consonants in every case may even confuse your brain more than just trying to remember which ones belong to which verb and developing a feeling for the language that way. So I won't bother you with that information too much. It basically comes down to the fact that the letters T, K, F, S, C, H, and P are usually followed by a T, and the rest by a D. Here's an example of one that is followed by a D. Vullen, V-U-L-L-E-N, is to fill. Ik vulde, I filled. Jij vulde, you filled. Hij, zij vulde, he, she filled. Wij vulden, we filled. Jullie vulden, you filled, plural. Zij vulden, they filled. Verbs that more or less follow this pattern are, for instance, antwoorden, to answer. Ik antwoordde means I answered. Horen, ik hoorde, to hear. Rennen, ik rende, to run. Verven, ik verfde, to paint. Willen, ik wilde, to want. Leggen, ik legde, to lay or to put. Chapter 4. Past participle. Verbs with T in the past tense. Again, there are two kinds of regular verbs in the past tense, one with the T and another with the D ending. The same counts for the past participle. First, let's do one with the short vowel sound in the first syllable. Pakken, to take. The past participle is ik heb gepakt. I have taken. See, it's easy. You just take the root or stem from the word, add a T or D at the end, and you add ge in front of it. I will show you through the examples from the previous chapter how simple it is when it comes to regular verbs. With a T, schoppen, geschopt. So, ik heb geschopt means I have kicked. Fietsen, gefietst. Zetten, gezet, with only one T at the end. Plaatsen, geplaatst. Werken, gewerkt. Maken, gemaakt. Beven, gebeefd. Kleven, gekleefd. Plakken, geplakt. Now there's some words with a D, still pronounced as a T, but it's a D at the end, but they pronounce it as a T. Antwoorden, geantwoord, with a D at the end, but you pronounce it as a T. Horen, gehoord. Rennen, gerend. Verven, geverfd. Willen, gewild. So here's the thing, the Dutch never pronounce a D at the end as a D, but always as a T, so ik heb gerend is pronounced as ik heb gerend, and not ik heb gerende, etc. There and hair and stuff. Some of the prepositions that we add to words, just like in English, come from Latin. The Dutch think it's silly to add ge at the beginning, since the 2 or 3 letters in the word are already something that's added on. So look at the following patterns when it comes to these words. If you see anything similar with the same first few letters in the verb, it usually means you don't add the ge or ge to the past participle. First the verb, then the past participle in brackets, and then the translation. Verwennen. Ik heb verwend. I have spoiled. Of course, I am spoiled is ik ben verwend. I am spoiled in Dutch. Beroven. Ik heb beroofd. So if it's ver or be or her, then you don't add the ge in front of it, but you leave it. Beloven. Ik heb beloofd. I have promised. Herkennen. Ik heb herkend. I have recognized. Verpakken. Ik heb verpakt. I have wrapped like a gift. Chapter 5. Verbs Exceptions. In this chapter, I will show you how to conjugate irregular verbs, the exceptions. Some people have said that German is all about rules and Dutch is all about exceptions, which doesn't make it easy for foreigners to learn and to memorize each single one. The funny thing is that it might be related to the culture. Whenever I am in Germany, I feel like many people follow the rules, come on time, and have forms and procedures for everything. Very efficient. When I lived in Belgium, I felt like more people avoided conflict, cared about politeness and hierarchy, and had a certain way of esteeming others as having a higher status or position. When I lived in the Netherlands, I got the feeling people were very forward, cared more about the underlying reasons of rules, and were willing to bend them at times or consider others as equals, often speaking their minds and saying what everyone else was thinking. Then I guess the language, with all its exceptions, followed the culture. Here I will show some of the main ones so you can have a basic understanding of what to say when speaking Dutch and wanting to talk in the past tense. So good luck memorizing all of these. I wish I could show you a trick, but that's just the trouble with Dutch. As you discover patterns and speak the language more often, you'll get more of a feel for it. So then the exceptions will be easier. But I have to say that it is probably still challenging for a foreigner. Yay, more verbs. Here we go. Remember, the conjugations below are all in the past tense. The last one is the past participle. Zijn, to be. Ik was. Jij was. Hij, zij, was. Wij waren. Jullie waren. Zij waren. Ik ben geweest. So, ik ben geweest means I have been. Hebben, to have. Ik had. Jij had. Hij, zij had. Wij hadden. Jullie hadden. Zij hadden. Ik heb gehad. Vragen, to ask. Ik vroeg, jij vroeg. Hij zij vroeg. Wij vroegen, jullie vroegen. Zij vroegen, ik heb gevraagd. Lopen, to walk. Ik liep, jij liep. Hij zij liep. Wij liepen. Jullie liepen. Zij liepen. Ik heb gelopen. Staan, to stand. Ik stond. Jij stond. Hij zij stond. Wij stonden. Jullie stonden. Zij stonden. Ik heb gestaan. Kijken, to look or to watch. Ik keek. Jij keek. Hij zij keek. Wij keken. Jullie keken. Zij keken. Ik heb gekeken. Zien, to see. Ik zag. Jij zag. Hij zij zag. Wij zagen. Jullie zagen. Zij zagen. Ik heb gezien. Weten, to know. Ik wist. Jij wist. Hij zij wist. Wij wisten. Jullie wisten. Zij wisten. Ik heb geweten. Kunnen, to can or be able to. Ik kon. Jij kon. Hij zij kon. Wij konden. Jullie konden. Zij konden. Ik heb gekund. Zoeken, which means to search, seek or look for. Ik zocht. Jij zocht. Hij zij zocht. Wij zochten. Jullie zochten. Zij zochten. Ik heb gezocht. Notice how kopen follows the same pattern as zoeken, even though the vowels are different in the present tense. Here it comes. Kopen, which means to buy or purchase. Ik kocht. Jij kocht. Hij zij kocht. Wij kochten. Jullie kochten. Zij kochten. Ik heb gekocht. Krijgen, to get. Receive. Ik kreeg. Jij kreeg. Hij zij kreeg. Wij kregen. Jullie kregen. Zij kregen. Ik heb gekregen. Spreken, to speak. Ik sprak. Jij sprak. Hij zij sprak. Wij spraken. Jullie spraken. Zij spraken. Ik heb gesproken. Zitten, to sit. Ik zat. Jij zat. Hij zij zat. Wij zaten. Jullie zaten. Zij zaten. Ik heb gezeten. Zeggen, to say. Ik zei. Jij zei. Hij zij zei. Wij zeiden. Jullie zeiden. Zij zeiden. Ik heb gezegd. Gaan, to go. Ik ging. Jij ging. Hij zij ging. Wij gingen. Jullie gingen. Zij gingen. Ik ben gegaan. Komen, to come. Ik kwam. Jij kwam. Hij zij kwam. Wij kwamen. Jullie kwamen. Zij kwamen. Ik ben gekomen. Trekken, to pull. Ik trok. Jij trok. Hij zij trok. Wij trokken. Jullie trokken. Zij trokken. Ik heb getrokken. Brengen, to bring. Ik bracht. Jij bracht. Hij zij bracht. Wij brachten. Jullie brachten. Zij brachten. Ik heb gebracht. Doen, to do. Ik deed. Jij deed. Hij zij deed. Wij deden. Jullie deden. Zij deden. Ik heb gedaan. Drinken, to drink. Ik dronk. Jij dronk. Hij zij dronk. Wij dronken. Jullie dronken. Zij dronken. Ik heb gedronken. Eten. To eat. Ik at. Jij at. Hij zij at. Wij aten. Jullie aten. Zij aten. Ik heb gegeten. Geven. To give. Ik gaf. Jij gaf. Hij zij gaf. Wij gaven. Jullie gaven. Zij gaven. Ik heb gegeven. Helpen. To help. Ik hielp. Jij hielp. Hij zij hielp. Wij hielpen. Jullie hielpen. Zij hielpen. Ik heb geholpen. Mogen. To may or to be allowed to. Ik mocht. Jij mocht. Hij zij mocht. Wij mochten. Jullie mochten. Zij mochten. Ik heb gemogen. Slapen. To sleep. Ik sliep. Jij sliep. Hij zij sliep. Wij sliepen. Jullie sliepen. Zij sliepen. Ik heb geslapen. Springen. To jump. Ik sprong. Jij sprong. Hij zij sprong. Wij sprongen. Jullie sprongen. Zij sprongen. Ik heb gesprongen. Vallen. To fall. Ik viel. Jij viel. Hij zij viel. Wij vielen. Jullie vielen. Zij vielen. Ik ben gevallen. Worden. To become. Ik werd. Jij werd. Hij zij werd. Wij werden. Jullie werden. Zij werden. Ik ben geworden. Chapter 6. Adjectives. Adjectives are words that describe something like beautiful, high, ugly, stupid, smart, interesting, boring, etc. After learning 6 languages and speaking some of them pretty fluently, I have concluded that the best way to learn adjectives is to learn opposites. If you learn the word big, it's better to immediately learn what small is in that same language. If you learn the word far, it would be best to know how to say close at the same time. On the other hand, if you really don't know the opposite word, just say what it is not. For example, if you memorize the word lang, meaning long, but you forgot the word kort, which means short, you can use that. Just say niet lang, not long, or in other words, short. Okay, enough chit chat. Ready? Here we go. Kort, short. Lang, long. Gek, crazy. Raar, weird. Normaal, normal. Gewoon, sane or normal or regular. Dom, stupid or dumb. Slim, smart. Knap, handsome or pretty. Mooi, beautiful or pretty. Lelijk, ugly. Sexy, same word, sexy. Schattig, cute. Groot, big or large. Klein, small or little. Ver, far. Dichtbij, close. Dun, thin. Dik, fat or thick. Gespierd, muscled or buff. Sterk, strong. Zwak, weak. Blij, happy. Boos, angry. Verdrietig, sad. Rijk, rich. Arm, poor. Yes, it's the same word as your arm. Leuk, funny. Grappig, funny. Stom, stupid. Saai, boring, goed, good, slecht, bad, wijd, wide, small, narrow, breed, wide, ingewikkeld, complicated, simple, simple, eenvoudig, which is another word for simple, makkelijk, easy, moeilijk, hard or difficult, moe, tired, opgewonden, excited, enthousiast, enthusiastic, energiek, energetic, gefrustreerd, frustrated, calm, calm, lui, lazy, ijverig, diligent. But often they say werkt hard. He works hard. They don't use ijverig a lot. Gemeen, mean, aardig, nice. Vriendelijk, friendly, lief, sweet. Stout, naughty. Handig, handy. Onhandig, unhandy or clumsy. Nat, wet. Vochtig, moist. Droog, dry. Koud, cold. Warm, warm. Heet, hot. Vaag, vague. Duidelijk, clear. Lekker, tasty or delicious. Vies, dirty or disgusting. Schoon means clean. In the Flemish dialect in Belgium, it often means beautiful. The word proper is often used for clean here. Eerlijk, honest. Oneerlijk, dishonest. Hard, hard. Zacht, soft. Kapot, broken. Stuk, another word for broken. Heel, whole or entire. Intact, intact. Hoog, high. Laag, low. Duur, expensive. Goedkoop, cheap, literally means good buy. A good buy, good purchase. Other helpful stuff. Niet genoeg, not enough. Te is too. 3 words for very. Heel, erg, or zeer. Some examples of sentences with adjectives are the following. Nee, je rijdt te snel. No, you are driving too fast. Die hamer is handig. That hammer is handy. Blijf kalm. Het komt wel goed. Stay calm. It is going to be okay. Wat een mooi meisje. What a beautiful girl. Harder werken, niet lui zijn. Work harder, don't be lazy. Ik ben lief, jij bent stout. I am sweet or nice, and you are naughty or bad. Conjugating adjectives. The hardest thing about adjectives in Dutch is that they go along with the article and noun they belong to. If you don't know and you have to guess, just add an E to it and you are more likely to pronounce it correctly. But for those who want to learn it more precisely, here are some general guidelines. By itself, it does not have an E. If the adjective isn't attached to a noun, it never has an E at the end. For example, ik ben groot. I am big. In this case, there is no noun. Another example is ze is heel klein. She is very small. Then about het and de and een. When the article of the noun is het, the adjective often has an E at the end. For example, het grote boek. The letters O, one of the letters O disappears, since the pronunciation of the long sound stays the same. Therefore, it is pronounced as het grote boek. When the article of the noun is the adjective always has an e at the end. For example, de grote pan. When the article of the noun is een, but the original article belonging to that noun is the adjective always has an e as well. For example, een grote pan, since it is de pan. When the article of the noun is een, but the original article belonging to that noun is het, it can have an e. This is true in most cases. For example, een groot boek, since it is het boek. More examples. Een groot huis, a big house. Een mooie tuin, a beautiful yard or garden. De aardige jongen, the nice boy. Het grappige kind, the funny child. Een leuke buurman, a fun neighbor. Een knappe man, a handsome man. De harde tafel, the hard table. Een mooi meisje, a pretty girl. Het kapotte ding, the broken thing. Een grote doos, a big box. De dikke dokter, the fat doctor. Een kleine kist, a small chest. Een hoge boom, a high tree. Let's talk about superlative stuff. The similarity in Dutch and English lies in the fact that if something is bigger, better, or more powerful, even if something is the highest, tallest, greatest, the Dutch has the same endings. See, for example, this. Groot, groter, grootst. Klein, kleiner, kleinste. Grappig, grappiger, grappigst. Mooi, mooier, mooiste. Lelijk, lelijker, lelijkst. Laag, lager, laagst. Of course, the annoying thing is they need an e at the end sometimes, just like with all adjectives, if it applies to the noun and the article belonging to it. For instance, het grootste boek, the biggest book. Het mooiste huis, the most beautiful home or house. Een lagere boom, a lower tree. De knapste dochter, the prettiest daughter. Here's a couple of exceptions. Goed, beter, best. Just like in English, good, better, best. Veel, meer, meest. Which is much, more, and most. Veel, meer, meest. Examples. Ik heb meer dan jij. I have more than you. Ik ben de beste speler. I am the best player. Chapter 7. Weather. Okay, enough with the grammar for a bit. Let's try some everyday conversations. Like the topic, everyone starts when they don't have anything else to say. The weather. Here are some simple phrases that will help you keep up the conversation when you have no clue what to tell or ask them. You can always start talking about the weather, isn't that right? Unlike in English, where people say it is raining, snowing, etc., the Dutch simply say it snows or it rains. Pretty easy, right? Here's a small list of what you can say. Het regent. It is raining. Het sneeuwt. It is snowing. Het is mooi weer. The weather is nice. Het stormt. There is a storm. Het hagelt. There is hail. Het waait hard. There is a strong wind. So they actually say it blows hard. Het is 10 graden Celsius. It's 10 degrees Celsius. Het is bewolkt. It is cloudy. Other helpful words. De wind. The wind. Het weer. The weather. De temperatuur. The temperature. Het weerbericht. The weather report. De zon. The sun. De wolken. The clouds. De lucht. The sky or the air, which is the same word in Dutch. De lucht. Here's some other expressions. Lekker weertje, hè? The weather is nice, isn't it? Lekker weertje, hè? Het giet. It is pouring rain. Het is mooi weer. The weather is lovely. They say beautiful. It is beautiful weather. Het is mooi weer. Het is rot weer. The weather is terrible. And there's some other cuss words I'm not going to tell you. But this is not cussing. You can actually say this rot weer in an appropriate way. Laten we naar buiten gaan. Let's go outside. Ik blijf liever binnen. I would rather stay inside. Het is te donker om naar buiten te gaan. It is too dark to go outside. Chapter 8. Travel. When you are traveling, there are always some words and expressions that can be useful. In this chapter, I will give you some of those so you can handle them yourself. By the way, the Dutch and Belgian airports have a lot of things explained in English on the signs. There is no need to worry that you have to ask for directions a lot. Tulpen in de beroemde Keukenhof. Tulips in the famous Keukenhof Gardens. The Keukenhof is a garden full of tulips. Een molen, a windmill. Amsterdam, Amsterdam. Het Atonium, which is the Atonium near Brussels. Brugge, which is Bruges in Belgium. Then there are some useful words. Toerist, tourist. Reizen, to travel. Fototoestel, which is a camera. Camera, which is a video camera. Kaart, which is a map. Trein, train. Vliegtuig, airplane. Vliegveld, airport. By the way, vliegen is to fly. So, vliegtuig, airplane, vliegveld, airport. Auto, car. Bus, bus. Taxi, taxi. Hotel, hotel. Meneer, Mr. Mevrouw, Mrs. Overnachten, stay or spend the night. Koffer, suitcase. Tas, bag. Rugzak, rucksack or backpack. Meenemen, take with you. Kleren, clothes. Spullen, stuff or belongings. Douane, customs. Buitenland, foreign country. Vakantie, vacation or holidays. Zakenreis, business trip. Here's some common expressions. Ik ben op vakantie. I am on vacation or on a holiday. Ik kom uit Amerika. I am from America. Ik kom uit Engeland. I am from England. Ik blijf 2 weken. I am staying for 2 weeks. Waar moet ik heen? Where should I go? Waar kan ik mijn koffer ophalen? Where can I get my suitcase? Kunt u mij helpen? Can you help me? Kunt u een foto van mij maken? Could you take a picture of me? Ik kan een beetje Nederlands. I can speak a little Dutch. Ik spreek Engels. I speak English. Wat zegt u? What did you say? Geen idee. No idea. Chapter 9. Relationships and Romance. Who am I to say you might not end up liking a pretty Dutch girl or handsome Dutch guy so much that you want to get to know them more? Here are some expressions that make it more interesting for him or her because you can speak in their native language and express your interest. Wat doe je graag in je vrije tijd? What do you like to do in your free time? Waar kom je vandaan? Where are you from? Hoe heet je? What is your name? Ik hou van je. I love you. Ik vind je lief. I think you're sweet. Je hebt mooie ogen. You have beautiful eyes. Ik ben gek op je. I am crazy about you. Wil je een relatie? Do you want a relationship? Wil je met me trouwen? Will you marry me? Hoeveel ex-vriendinnen heb je? How many ex-girlfriends do you have? Hoeveel ex-vrienden heb je? How many ex-boyfriends do you have? Heb je morgen tijd? Do you have time tomorrow? Hoeveel kinderen heb je? How many kids do you have? Heb je een relatie? Are you in a relationship? Wil je iets leuks gaan doen? Do you want to do something fun? Mooie jurk. Nice dress. Je ziet er goed uit. You look good. Wat zoek je in een man or in een vrouw? What are you looking for in a man or in a woman? Why are you looking at my daughter is wat zit jij naar mijn dochter te kijken? Chapter 10. Diminutives. In English, sometimes putting the letter Y or EY gets added to a word, especially in children's play or kindergarten, to make it smaller without using the word little or anything else. A few examples are horsey or bunny or doggy, etc. It's not as common though, and it doesn't happen with every word, but in Dutch you can make anything small by adding je or utje or tje or pje to it. It depends on a little on the end vowel or consonant what is and what's correct exactly, but just know that you can use it on a lot. When a word ends at a vowel that should be pronounced long, like auto in the diminutive, the extra O and the T get added. If a word ends at an M, for instance, then it adds the letter P, like in boompje. When the original word ends at an I or an R, for example, the extra T gets added, like in kikkertje. And there are other ways to know with its fair share or numerous exceptions. See the following examples. In all these cases, the first word is the original, the second word means little with whatever word it is, and the third word is the translation. Bank, bankje, bank. Auto, autootje, car. Vis, visje, fish. Kikker, kikkertje, frog. Huis, huisje, house. Bal, balletje, bal. Bed, bedje, bed. Tafel, tafeltje, table. Jongen, jongetje, boy. Meisje, and this word is always small. There is no meis at all. Meisje always means girl. Muur, muurtje, wall. Vuur, vuurtje, fire. Plant, plantje, plant, boom, boompje, tree, bloem, bloempje, flower, emmer, emmertje, bucket, scherm, schermpje, screen, bril, brilletje, glasses. It's always singular in Dutch. Sok, sokje, sock. Now that you've got a lot to study and think about, I hope to see you in the next book so we can have more fun learning Dutch and go over some other topics. And then you'll speak really good Dutch as well. Dan spreek je pas echt goed Nederlands. This was Speak Dutch, Book 2. Author Vincent Note, narrator Vincent Note. Thank you for listening. Content. Introduction. Chapter 1. False Friends. Chapter 2. Proverbs. Chapter 3. Puns. Chapter 4. Inversion. Chapter 5. Conversation. Chapter 6. Customs. Chapter 7. Health. Chapter 8. Countries and languages. Introduction. This book is for those who have read the first 2 books or for people who are familiar with the Dutch language, but want to learn some more advanced ways of saying things, some common pitfalls they might have overlooked, and are excited to perfect their Dutch language skills even more. For those who haven't bought the first or second book, let me tell you something about myself. As you might have seen from my last name, I am of Dutch origin. In fact, I grew up in the Netherlands. My native language is Dutch, but over the years, as I have lived in several English-speaking countries and interacted with many foreigners, I have mastered that language as well. Now I speak both languages fluently to the point where most people can't even hear my Dutch accent anymore. Common mistakes many native English speakers make when they attempt to speak Dutch is copy of an English proverb that doesn't make any sense in Dutch, false friends, words that look alike but mean something completely different, or failing to use inversion, turning around the verbs and other words correctly. These are more ways to master the Dutch language and sound like you know what you are talking about. By studying this third book, you'll notice that people who speak Dutch can relate better and understand what you are saying. Did I spark your curiosity yet? Wacht dan niet langer en ga verder. Then don't wait any longer and continue. Chapter 1. False Friends. An Anglicism is a word, sentence, or phrase that comes from English but does not go along with the correct form in the language it is translated into. With words, they are often called false friends. Here are some common examples. The word alarm could refer to the Dutch alarm, but it could also mean wekker, which is more accurately an alarm clock that helps you wake up. Other expressions are stop the ball. The mistake is stop the ball, but in Dutch actually they would say, and this is the best translation, houd de bal tegen. In English you would say serious pain. The mistaken way to translate this would be serieuze pijn, but the best translation is ernstige pijn. In English, you would say under construction. You could translate it erroneously into onder constructie, but in Dutch, the best translation is in aanbouw. In English, you would say sooner or later. You could say vroeger or of later, but usually they don't say that. They say vroeg of laat, soon or late. In English, you would say the book says, and if you translate it with het boek zegt, they would laugh at you because books can't say anything, they can't talk. So they would say, in het boek staat, in the book stands. Something that's written down is always, it stands there. Apply to your life is something you could say in English. You could say, op je leven toepassen, but a lot of times the Dutch leave the life out of there and they would just say op jezelf toepassen, to apply it to yourself. You could say in English a direct connection, and yes, you could say in Dutch een directe connectie, but that's really not usually how they say it. They would actually say een rechtstreekse verbinding. In English, you would say dramatic changes, and if you say dramatische veranderingen, it kind of sounds a little weird in Dutch. So better is drastische veranderingen. In the same way, there are Dutch phrases and words you think you might recognize, but they are deceivingly different in their meanings. Check out these examples. An acorn. Is that an acorn? No. It's a squirrel. An acorn, the English acorn, is een eikel in Dutch. So, een acorn verzamelt eikels. A squirrel collects acorns. Another word. Een brave man in Dutch. Do not assume this is a brave man, but this actually means a harmless man. The word for brave is actually moedig. Or in Dutch, hij is in de war. This does not mean he is in the war. It means he is confused. Actueel does not mean actual. It actually means current or nowadays, like something in the news. Magazijn does not mean magazine. It means warehouse. Raar does not mean rare. It means weird or strange. Een mening does not mean meaning. It means opinion. Invalide does not mean invalid, but it means handicapped. Map does not mean map. It means folder or binder. File does not mean file. It actually means traffic jam. Advocaat. You could say it's advocate, but that's really not what it is. It's actually a lawyer. So if you're calling your lawyer, dan bel je je advocaat. Eventueel does not mean eventually. It means by chance. Spell does not mean to spell, but it means a game. Although the word spellen does mean to spell, but it has nothing to do with the spell as in a magic spell, because that is een spreuk. Another common mistake, like I mentioned in one of the previous books, is thinking that the Dutch call you a whore when they say dat is goed hoor. It's just an emphasis, nothing more. And don't think the Dutch have any bad intentions when they say douchen. It just means taking a shower, similar to the Spanish duchar. Chapter 2 Proverbs. One of my family members who had lived in the United States for a long time cracked me up on accident when she said, is iets vissigs aan de hand. There is something fishy going on. Why? Because that proverb simply doesn't exist in Dutch. We all knew what she meant, but it was hilarious, since she didn't make the switch. I've heard other visitors from America say things like, dat is een stukje gebak. That is a piece of cake. No, it didn't make any sense to those who didn't know English enough. So on that funny note, I will give you some common Dutch proverbs with their pronunciation, translation, and meaning. Oude koeien uit de sloot halen. Getting old cows out of the moat. It means bringing up something that should be left in the past, like the time you broke your mother-in-law's best plates 10 years ago. You don't bring that up again. Door het lint gaan, which means going through the ribbon. The actual meaning of the proverb is not being able to control your anger or emotions, or go berserk. Like that time that Windows was shutting down for no reason and you didn't press save. Ik heb er geen kaas van gegeten. I have not eaten cheese from it. Which means you don't know anything about it. Like you will about Dutch, like you won't about Dutch if you don't read these book series or listen to them. Hij neemt de benen. He takes the legs. This means he is getting out of there. Or like when your toilet exploded and you had to avoid the smell by sleeping at your neighbor's place. It means you take the legs to avoid the smell. Hij neemt de benen. Een fluitje van een cent. A flute of a cent. Which pretty much means it's too easy, a piece of cake. Like mastering the Dutch language. Wat de boer niet kent, dat vreet hij niet. What the farmer doesn't know, he doesn't eat. That's what they say. It means not being willing to try out new things, like when your wife asks you to wear something pink and purple for tonight's dinner. Boontje komt om zijn loontje. The bean comes around his bean. About his reward. That's really what it means. He or she gets what she deserves. He or she deserves, like that bad grade you got when you were partying instead of studying in the weekend. Vele handen maken licht werk. Many hands make light work. If more people help out, the job will be done faster, like the time a few people from the church helped you move. Blaffende honden bijten niet. Barking dogs don't bite. Someone who threatens you might not always be in immediate danger. Praatjes vullen geen gaatjes. Chats don't fill holes. Which means talk is cheap, like that guy your uncle tried to convince you that it would be good for you to perform free labor for him. Een ongeluk zit in een klein hoekje. An accident is in a little corner. Or in other words, accidents are waiting to happen and there isn't much needed for an accident, like when someone lifts up the bed too high and breaks the light on the ceiling, based on a true story, by the way. Als de kat van huis is, springen de muizen op tafel. When the cat leaves the house, the mice jump on the table. Or in other words, when an authority figure leaves, chaos breaks loose and control is gone, like that time you came home and your kids messed up the living room. Chapter 3. Puns. If you want to sound funny or smart, or be a little social by telling woordgrappen, word jokes, or in other words puns, then I have some good ones for you. These are jokes that will mostly only work in Dutch, which is why it will be beneficial to know the language. Sentences and jokes. Ken je die mop van die mummie? Ingewikkeld, hè? Do you know the joke of that mummy? Complicated, isn't it? The reason why this is funny is because the word inwikkelen, or in other words, the past participle ingewikkeld, means enwrapped or enveloped or enrolled, but it has a double meaning since it also means complicated. So the mummy is enwrapped and he's complicated too. Ik wil stemmen, maar ik heb geen idee. I want to vote, but I have no idea. The reason why this is funny, and it would probably work in English a little bit, is that the word idea or ID is pronounced the same way as the other one. So he has no idea how to vote because he has no identification, but he also has no idea. So here's a joke. Het ene ei zegt tegen het andere ei: niet zo dicht bij de rand komen. Het andere ei antwoordt: ach klets. So the one egg says to the other egg, don't go too close to the edge. And the other egg answers, oh nonsense. This is funny because the word klets means to chat or speak nonsense. But at the same time, it can be a sound effect of a broken egg, like klets. So the egg is saying it is nonsense to be so cautious, but is falling down at the same time and breaking on the floor. Fruit and vegetable jokes. These are guessing jokes. You say het and what is it? In other words, you give them a couple of clues and then let them guess what it is. If they don't know, within 3 seconds you give them the answer and make them laugh. Especially kids love these kinds of jokes. Het is groen en skiet door de bergen. What is it? It is green and skis through the mountains. What is it? Een skiwi, which is a ski kiwi. Het is groen en hangt onder de auto. What is it? It is green and it's hanging under the car. What is it? Een spruitlaat. A Brussels sprouts exhaust. Spruit, uitlaat. Uitlaat is exhaust. Spruit is Brussels sprouts. So spruitlaat, Brussels sprouts, exhaust. Het is groen en je kunt ermee rijden. Wat is het? It is green and you can drive with it. What is it? Een rijbewijs. A leak driver's license. Prij is leak. Rijbewijs is driver's license. So rijbewijs is a leak driver's license. Het is geel en je hangt het aan de auto. Wat is it? It is yellow and you can hang it on the car. What is it? Een banaanhangwagen. A banana trailer. Banaan, aanhangwagen. Een banaan is banana. Een aanhangwagen, on-hang-wagon, is a trailer. So banaanhangwagen is a banana trailer. Het is rood en heeft een baard. What is it? It is red and it has a beard. What is it? Een baardbei. A beard strawberry. The word for strawberry is aardbei, and the word for beard is baard. So baard aardbei becomes baardbei, and it's a beard strawberry. Het is groen en het drijft. What is it? It is green and it floats. What is it? Andijvie. Floating andive. Drijf andijvie. In other words, andijvie is andive, drijven is to float. So drijf andijvie becomes andrijvie, which is floating andive. Chapter 4. Inversion. Alright, enough joking around. Let's get serious, let's do some hardcore tough grammar. In this chapter, you'll learn about one of the most annoying things for people who are native English speakers, something they don't do both in Dutch and in German. But for some reason, the English never got around to it. It's inversion. It is something I've been seeing one American after another struggle with, and that came to the Netherlands or Belgium. Even though they studied the language for months, they still didn't get it right. I've seen people that took 2 years to get it right. It takes a moment to pause for beginners and think about how to put the right words into the right order. For someone who is already used to being around more Dutch people for a longer period of time, I think they should be able to pick it up after a while. When I studied languages like French, Spanish, and Thai, I noticed that the order in which you put the words makes all the difference. It distinguishes people who speak fluently or more perfectly from those who are struggling to get something out of their mouths. If you keep making mistakes with this, though, don't be too hard on yourself. Be happy to accept corrections, think about it, and move on. People who learn a language the fastest are those who keep trying and aren't embarrassed about making mistakes. That is exactly why children pick it up so quickly. They are often humble enough to parrot what everybody else says and aren't afraid to make mistakes. What is inversion? Inversion simply means to invert or switch places words in the sentence that otherwise would be in a different order. I will show you when the Dutch and often the Germans use inversion. Inversion often happens when the subject is not at the beginning of a sentence anymore, or in case of most clauses. This is usually the case with conjunctions or times mentioned as the first word of the sentence. In a regular sentence, the verb and subject get switched. When this happens in a clause with a conjunction, like because or when or since, the main verb in that sentence gets pushed all the way to the end of the sentence and appears as the last word. Here are some examples. Hopefully, these will help you understand what is going on. Ik ga naar huis is a regular sentence. I am going home. But if you say, tomorrow I will go home, you say, morgen ga ik naar huis. So they get switched. Ik was heel blij. I was very happy. This is a regular sentence. Gisteren was ik heel blij. Yesterday was I very happy. And because the word yesterday was there, the was and the I get switched. Gisteren was ik heel blij. Sentences with conjunctions. Just to make it hard on you, sorry, I did not invent the language. Some conjunctions are followed by inversion and some others are not. Here's a list of some of the most important conjunctions and a yes or no about whether or not they are followed by inversion. In the cases I filled out yes, with the verb gets shoved all the way to the back. There are a few exceptions where the subject and verb get switched. When that is the case, I have indicated so. A little side note, if the conjunction appears in the clause in the first part of the sentence, it switches around the subject and the verb of the second part of the sentence in many cases. When this is the case with the conjugation, I will show it through examples. Yes, I know, it sounds complicated, but hopefully the following overview will help, as well as the examples I am going to give you. Want, which is because. No, no switching. Maar, but, no. En, and, no. Hoewel, although, yes. Als, if or when, yes. Terwijl, which means while, yes. Omdat, because, yes. Zodat, so that, yes. Totdat, until, yes. Dus, so or thus, switched. En daarom, therefore, switched. I will now give you an example with every conjunction so you can understand the concept better. Want, the word want. Ik ben moe, ik heb de hele dag gewerkt. I am tired, I worked all day. Very simple sentence. But now if you want to connect them, you say ik ben moe, want ik heb de hele dag gewerkt. It's easy, right? Since the word want is not followed by inversion, you could just connect the sentences and you're done. So if you're iffy about using inversion, I recommend you to always use want instead of omdat. It's just easier that way because you don't have to mix everything up. Maar. So the word maar. Ik moet naar school. Ik heb geen zin. I have to go to school. I don't feel like going. But if you want to connect them, you say ik moet naar school, maar ik heb geen zin. I have to go to school, but I don't feel like going. The word maar in Dutch is easy. No inversion. En. Ik moet weg. Ik heb haast. I have to go. I am in a hurry. Ik moet weg en ik heb haast. I have to go and I am in a hurry. Easy. No inversion. Hoewel means although. Ik ben te laat. Ik doe rustig aan. I am too late. I am taking it easy. But if you want to connect them, let's say, although I am late, I am taking it easy. You switch ik and ben, I and am, and you push ben towards the end. So, it will go like this. Hoewel ik te laat ben, doe ik het rustig aan. So do and ik also get switched. Because the word hoewel appears in the first part of the sentence, the word do and ik get switched around in the second part of the sentence. Now here's another example with that word. Ik doe het rustig aan, hoewel ik te laat ben. Ik doe het rustig aan, I'm taking it easy, hoewel ik te laat ben, although I am too late. Because the word hoewel appears in the second part of the sentence, the word ben, am, gets pushed all the way to the back, but not ik and doe in the beginning part of the sentence. The word als, which means if or when. Je bent weg, ik ga feesten. You are gone or away, I am going to party. Je bent weg, ik ga feesten. So if you want to connect them with if or when you are gone, I'm going to party, you would say, als je weg bent, ga ik feesten. Because the word als appears in the first part of the sentence, the words ga and ik get turned around in the second part of the sentence. Also, the word bent gets pushed to the end of the first part of the sentence as part of the inversion. Ik ga feesten als je weg bent. I'm going to party when you are gone. Here, inversion only applies to the second part of the sentence, where bent gets pushed into the back. Ik ga feesten als je weg bent. The first part of the sentence is free and stays the same. The word terwijl, which means while. Je was in de auto, je luisterde naar de radio. You were in the car, you were listening to the radio. If you want to say you were listening to the radio while you were in the car, you'd say it like this. Je luisterde naar de radio, listen to the radio, terwijl je in de auto was. While you in the car were. And that's how they do it in Dutch. So was gets shoved all the way to the back. The first part of the sentence stays the same, but in the second part, the word was gets pushed towards the back. Then another one. Terwijl je in de auto was, so while you were in the car, luisterde je naar de radio. While you were in the car, you were listening to the radio. Here the conjunction appears as the first word of the sentence. So, in the first part of the sentence, the verb was, terwijl je in de auto was, goes towards the back of that sentence. And in the second part, the words je and luisterde get turned around. So the sentence is, terwijl je in de auto was, while you in the car were, luisterde je naar de radio. Listened you to the radio. It sounds really weird in English, but that's how they say it in Dutch. The word omdat, because. Ik doe mijn jas aan, ik heb het koud. I am putting on my jacket, I am cold. Ik doe mijn jas aan, ik heb het koud. But if you want to say, I am putting on my jacket because I am cold, you would say, ik doe mijn jas aan, omdat ik het koud heb. The word omdat appears in the second part of the sentence, so the word heb gets pushed towards the back. These are sentences that start with omdat, but they are less common. Zodat, so that. Ik leer hard voor mijn toets, zodat ik een goed cijfer krijg. I'm studying hard for my test. Ik leer hard voor mijn toets, so that I will get a good grade. Zodat ik een goed cijfer krijg. So literally they say, so that I a good grade get. The word krijg means get. But because of the inversion dependent on zodat, so that, it gets pushed all the way to the back of the sentence. An example with the word totdat. Je mag tv kijken totdat je naar bed moet. You may watch TV. You may TV watch is what they would say. Totdat je naar bed moet. Until you must go to bed. But they literally say, until you to bed must. The word moet gets shoved towards the back because of the conjunction totdat, which means until. The word dus. Ik heb vandaag veel geld. Today have a lot of money. Dus ben ik in een goed humeur. So I am in a good mood. I have lots of money today, so I am in a good mood. But literally it says, I have today a lot of money. Ik heb vandaag veel geld. Dus ben ik in een goed humeur. So am I in a good mood. The words ben and ik got turned around. Usually it's ik ben, but because of the word dus, which means so, they switch places. A little side note, sometimes when talking fast, the Dutch don't turn them around and it can still be somewhat correct. They could say, dus ik ben in een goed humeur, and get away with it. But this only goes for the word dus. Don't confuse the word so in English with the Dutch word zo, Z-O, because that has a different meaning. The word for so, as a conjunction, is dus. The word daarom. Daarom means therefore. So usually you would begin a sentence with that. De zon schijnt, the sun is shining. Daarom ga ik naar buiten. That's why or therefore go I outside is what it literally says. So the sun is shining, therefore I am going outside. Normally it would be ik ga naar buiten, I go outside. But because of the word daarom at the beginning of the second sentence, it is ga ik instead of ik ga. The verb and the noun get switched. Okay. Chapter 5. Conversation. Grammar, grammar, grammar. Enough of that now. Let's start with some everyday conversations that you could learn to speak to other Dutch speaking people. One of the best ways to start speaking a language faster is lots and lots of conversation and practice. Just start speaking to others and figure it out. That's one of the best ways to perfect it. Pick up the pronunciation and learn faster and easier. So here are some conversations, and I will try to pronounce the words as clearly as possible so you can follow along. Hoi, ik heet Erik. Hoe heet jij? Hi, my name is Eric. What is yours? Ik heet Marieke. Hoe lang ben je hier al? My name is Marieke. How long have you been here? Nog maar een half uur. Zullen we naar binnen gaan? Only for a half hour. Shall we go inside? Ja, is goed. Yes, all right. Dus hoe oud ben je? So how old are you? Ik ben 25. En jij? I am 25. And you? Ik ben 28. Wat voor werk doe je? I am 28. What kind of work do you do? Eigenlijk studeer ik. Actually, I am in college. Oh, leuk. Wat dan? Oh, fun. What is your major? Ik studeer geneeskunde. I am in medical school. Interessant. Mijn vader is arts. Interesting. My father is a doctor. Wauw, wat een toeval. Wat doe jij? Wow, what a coincidence. What do you do? Ik werk in de bouw, maar ik ben op zoek naar een andere baan. I am in construction, but I am looking for another job. Wat wil je dan gaan doen? What do you want to do then? Ik wil graag manager worden, dus ga ik terug naar school. I want to become a manager, so I'm going back to school. Geweldig. Dat lijkt me een goed plan. Great, that seems like a good plan to me. A different conversation. Schatje, ik ga boodschappen doen. Honey, I am going to go grocery shopping. Wacht even. Wait a minute. Wat is er dan? What is going on? Ik heb nog wat dingen van de supermarkt nodig. I still need some things from the supermarket. Oh, nou, ik ga maar even hoor. Oh well, I am just out for a minute, really. Kun je dan wat rijst meenemen? Can you get some rice then? Vooruit dan maar. Oké, all right then. Dankjewel, dat scheelt me enorm veel tijd. Thank you, that will save me an enormous amount of time. Goed, tot straks. Oké, see you later. Ja, doei. Yes, goodbye. A different conversation. Kunt u mij vertellen waar het treinstation is? Can you tell me where the train station is? Het is best dichtbij. It is pretty close. Ja, mooi zo. Yeah? Oh, good. Luister goed. Eerst ga je rechtsaf, dan linksaf, daarna rechtdoor. En dan zie je het aan de rechterkant. Listen carefully. First you turn right, then left. After that you go straight and then you'll see it on the right side. Aha, dat klinkt makkelijk. Aha, that sounds easy. Ja, je bent er binnen een paar minuten. Yes, you will be there within a few minutes. Bedankt. Ik ga meteen. Tot ziens. Thanks. I will go right away. Goodbye. Graag gedaan. Succes. You're welcome. Good luck. A different conversation. Gaan we deze film kijken? Shall we watch this movie? Welke? Which one? Die actiefilm met Tom Cruise. That action movie with Tom Cruise. Ik kijk liever naar een romantische comedy. I would rather watch a romantic comedy. Echt waar? Nou, ik vind zulke films maar saai. Really? Well, I think those kinds of movies are boring. Alsjeblieft, please. Goed, eerst kijken we naar een romantische film en daarna naar een actiefilm. Okay, first we will watch a romantic movie and then an action movie. Afgesproken. Agreed. Kun jij de chips uit de keuken halen? Can you get the chips from the kitchen? Ja. Zet jij intussen de film aan? Yes. Will you turn on the movie in the meantime? Natuurlijk. Of course. Chapter 6. Customs. If you happen to go to the Netherlands, just keep in mind that not only the language is a little different, but the culture as well. There are some things to take into account. Offering a drink. Usually when you enter someone's home, one of the first things they do is asking, Wil je iets drinken? The Dutch have a strong tradition of offering visitors a drink, so expect it, and if you want to be polite, do it when others enter your home as well. Saying what you think or speaking your mind. Of course, there are exceptions, as is the case with every country with millions of people, but in a general sense, the Dutch are very forward and often speak their minds. That has pros and cons. The benefit could be that you know they're usually not hiding their feelings from you, and they are often honest about what they think. They often say what they mean, no guessing games. The downside can be that some people don't think before they speak, and therefore insult or offend some others. It can be pretty annoying if people express their opinion when you don't ask for it sometimes. So it's up to you if you like that culture. The Belgians, however, in a general sense, don't do that as much. They are often more polite, but not always open about their feelings. Of course, there are exceptions here too, like a couple of families I knew when I lived there, who never backed off and said what they were thinking, but in a general sense, there's more of a politeness, conflict avoiding culture. Be normal. The Dutch often use a common phrase like doe normaal man or doe eens even normaal. Act normal. They expect a certain decent behavior and common sense from every person. If you are out of line or you deviate from the normal way of doing things, you could hear that remark. Taxes. The taxes are high and the government support is high too in areas of education, welfare, healthcare, road construction, etc. If you are used to a more capitalized way of thinking, don't be shocked when you hear of the more socialistic approach of the strong shoulders need to carry the load of the weak. Not that it is in any way close to communism, but the balance is there in a different way. Less opportunity, maybe, but also less risk and more financial safety for every citizen. This aspect of their culture reflects a way of thinking that I'll explain in the next point. Equality. The Dutch have an equality mindset. The following are not my opinion per se, but just things you will find in the Dutch culture. This means that, number one, taxes are higher and welfare too. So income differences are not as extreme as in some other capitalist countries. Not as many extremely rich billionaires or people on the street who have nowhere to go. The ones in the streets are often, but not always, drug addicts. Number two, there are lots of commercials and advertisings promoting charity organizations like War Child or UNICEF or Terra des Hommes and some other global nonprofit institutions. Why? Because the Dutch culture is that they care. They cannot stand the inequality in the world, so they want to help. Number three, many Dutch promote gay rights. This is also a phenomenon of having the same rights mindset and equality. Number four, education is cheap. The government supports it and prevents schools from charging ridiculous tuition fees. Therefore, almost anyone can afford a higher education. Number five, Many women work as part of the sexual revolution that began in the 1970s. They speak up and consider themselves equal to men. Many households have double incomes. Number 6. There's a minimum wage for every job. Unions are strong. People cannot always be fired or quit immediately because of contract, laws, and agreements, and you don't have to worry about tipping too much at restaurants. The waiters and waitresses all get a good minimum wage. Number 7. Dutch speak their mind, so they complain more than in some other cultures. They consider themselves having rights. Here's a joke that explains it all. An American, a Scottish person, and a Dutch person are in a car. The car crashes. All three die suddenly. At the gate, St. Peter, no offense, it's just a joke, mentions that this is a mistake. There's too much paperwork involved, but I will cut you some slack and give you a deal. If you give me $100 right now, I will put you back in life without any harm. The American knows the American health system and gets his wallet and says, "Deal. Cheap." He appears back at the spot and gets interviewed by others around him. "Well, where are the Scottish and the Dutch guy?" they ask. "Well," the American responds, "the Scottish person thought it was too expensive, and the Dutch guy kept complaining because he insisted that the government should be paying it for him." Eating out less. There's not as much eating out as, for instance, in the United States. Some Dutch people go to a snack bar that sells French fries, sausages, and some other fast food. But in general, they cook at home a lot more. Public transportation. Because gas is expensive, cars are expensive, driver's licenses are expensive, and car insurance is expensive. Well, you saw this coming. Driving a car is expensive. That's why a lot of Dutch and Belgians take trains and buses everywhere. It's common and often crowded around rush hour. There is an amazing network of public transportation connections, so depending on where you're going, you might easily get there without a car. Bicycles. Another thing the infrastructure does almost perfectly is bicycle trails, signs, and facilities. You'll see thousands of bicycles in the Netherlands. I grew up riding my bike to work, school, shopping centers, and everywhere else. History. The European countries have a history that dates back to World War II, the Dark Ages, and even to the Roman Empire. If you like history, it will be interesting to see all the buildings, art, religions, statues, and stories. Techno music. Despite its rich culture and history and the variety of interests in those modern societies, there is a general trend in the Netherlands and also in Germany, Austria, and some surrounding countries of techno, house, hardcore, rave, dance, or trance music. You'll find those fast beats a lot at nightclubs, and those countries offer some of the best techno DJs in the world. Soccer or football. The one time that the Dutch feel patriotic, besides the national celebration of the royal courts, is during the World Cup or Euro Cup. You'll see flags and colors everywhere, and during the game there are hardly any cars on the road. During the rest of the year, soccer or football is a common and popular sport, especially for boys and men. Dutch soccer or football team has, despite its tiny country size, often made it to the World Finals or won impressive awards for its performance. Chapter 7. Health. Here are some words and sentences you could use when you go to the doctor or talk with someone about your health problems. Ik ben verkouden. I have a cold. Ik ben ziek. I am sick or ill. Ik ben misselijk. I feel nauseous. Ik heb koorts. I have a fever. Ik heb griep. I have the flu. Waar kan ik een dokter vinden? Where can I find a doctor? Waar is het ziekenhuis? Where is the hospital? Ik heb een pil nodig. I need a pill. Waar zijn mijn medicijnen? Where is my medicine? Het doet hier pijn. It hurts here. Literally, it does here pain. Het doet hier pijn. It hurts here. Het is niet ernstig. It is not serious. Nothing to worry about. Ik heb een knieoperatie gehad. I had knee surgery. Ik ben allergisch voor. I am allergic to. Ik heb hoofdpijn. I have a headache. Chapter 8. Countries and Languages. In this chapter, I will show you how to say a lot of different nationalities, languages, and countries in Dutch. Just so you know, the nationality and language is the same. So if you would say, hij spreekt Nederlands, he speaks Dutch, it is the same for hij is Nederlands, he is Dutch, just like in English. Nederland, Netherlands. Nederlands, Dutch. Duitsland, Germany. Duits, German. België, Belgium. Vlaams, Flemish. Frans, French. Frankrijk, France. Amerika, America. Amerikaans, American. Verenigde Staten, United States. Polen, Poland. Pools, Polish. Denemarken, Denmark. Deens, Danish. Engeland, England. Engels, English. Schotland, Scotland. Schots, Scottish. Ierland, Ireland. Iers, Irish. Spanje, Spain. Spaans, Spanish. Portugal, Portugal. Portugees, Portuguese. China, China. Chinees, Chinese. Japan, Japan. Japans, Japanese. Mexico, Mexico. Mexicaans, Mexican. Canada, Canada. Canadees, Canadian. Afrika, Africa. Afrikaans, African. Italië, Italy. Italiaans, Italian. Griekenland, Greece. Grieks, Greek. Turkije, Turkey. Turks, Turkish. Noorwegen, Norway. Noors, Norwegian. Zweden, Sweden. Zweeds, Swedish. Rusland, Russia. Russisch, Russian. Brazilië, Brazil. Braziliaans, Brazilian. Well, I hope you had some fun with this. I hope you got a lot better at Dutch. Remember to have fun and try to get a feeling for the language, not just to bash endless vocabulary into your head. Although it will help some, just gradually speak it more, listen to it more, and study a bit every day, and I am sure you will do just fine. This was Speak Dutch, Book 3 out of 3. Narrated and written by Vincent Note. Thank you for listening.